London, Brooklyn, London, Brooklyn, Atlanta, London, Harlem, Brooklyn, Kingston, Atlanta, London, Harlem, Brooklyn, Kingston, Atlanta, London, Harlem, Brooklyn, Kingston, Atlanta.
Hello everybody and welcome to the first round proper of the IMB World Series GT3 Championship for Season 4. We've already warmed ourselves up with a great couple of races at Le Mans last week, but now it's time to get a bit more serious. We've come to Francorchamps, seeing of a couple of fantastic races last season, but that was towards the back end of the season when we very much knew what was going to happen. Well, here it's very much different. Here at Spa, round one here this season, lots of unknowns going forward into this one, and so a lot of excitement for the nearly 60 drivers who are getting themselves on the grid for the first round proper. My name's Ian O'Leary, Zach Sweeney is alongside me, and Zach, we're going to have a lot to cover over the next 2 hours.
Oh yeah, well if it's anything like Le Mans then for sure, and I think Spa as well is a really good circuit to get the season properly underway. Press week was a good sort of warm-up session, you know, that's what it's designed for, get a feel for the, you know, the dynamic of things. We obviously saw 3 categories, you know, the pros, the pro-ams and the AMs, one that we didn't have for season 3, so interesting prospect, a lot more cars on circuit. It got really busy, a lot of action to go through, and well, Spa's a lot shorter than Le Mans is, so you've got those 60 cars compiled onto a much shorter circuit. This is it's certainly a recipe for a good race.
Shorter circuit, but by far from the shortest that we're going to have this season. A couple of the circuits later on include the likes of Mosport, which is going to be exceptionally busy if we try and pack 60 cars onto that one, so let's hope not. That's coming up in November, so hopefully it will be a little bit quieter by that point. Otherwise, we're going to be in big trouble. A couple of changes for this season, of course, and the most important one with regards to watching this one go through is definitely the 3 categories that we now have. We've got a pro category, the pro-ams and the AMs, all adding to the excitement. 3 different races for us to keep an eye on, which is, I think, a good idea because it gives more people a chance at winning, and it certainly did that throughout Le Mans. I think everybody in their respective category does at least have a good race on their hands here in all 3 classes.
Yeah, again, it was a thing that we spoke about during Le Mans, is that with just pros and AMs, you sort of have that middle ground that the pro-AMs sort of fill, in that the fronts of the AMs are sort of, you know, borderline pros anyway, so it sort of makes it unfair for sort of the midfield and the back end of the AMs to really get into mix and have a, you know, a good time fighting towards the front. It sort of takes away that excitement because, you know, it's going to be a little bit more you know, dull for them. But the pro-AMs, it sort of gives everyone where they should be. It really settles the pecking order, and as we saw, all three categories saw, you know, really close racing all the way through, and fingers crossed that does carry on here to Spa. And yeah, we're, you know, we have got a rough idea of who's going to be quick and what have you, but because everyone's in a nice little pecking order, everyone's where they should be, it means that you can still have some pretty crazy races. And of course with 2 races as well, even more, you know, double the entertainment factor with that as well.
Absolutely. We've got Thomas Cope on pole for this one, and we're about to see the grid cycle its way through when we get towards the actual race section, which is coming up very soon. But of course, it's the usual format: 25 minutes for race 1, 50 minutes for race 2. There'll be a mandatory pit stop in there as well, as they're limited to 65% of their normal fuel tanks, so they'll have to come down pit lane, and that's where we see a lot of excitement indeed. And of course, the top 10 have a reverse grid, not quite a full reverse grid on this occasion, and to be honest, it won't make too much difference, I wouldn't imagine, because towards the end, especially in Pro, we didn't have very many more than 10 drivers in each category, so it won't change the races too much, although we do have far more than 10 in all 3 categories here, especially for the opening rounds here of this season. But I've just seen the cars begin to disappear, and we're about to get into the race, and I'm trying to get in early on this one because there's a huge grid, to be honest, to try and get our way through. So let's try, shall we? With the current grid order, that is the front of one of the categories. I don't know if it's Pro-Am or AM, but it all looks a bit mixed up at the moment. So we'll get the proper one up, hopefully. Because obviously, as I already told you, Thomas Cope is on pole. There he is, ahead of Albin Kjellberg. Elliot Heller and Harry Wills will be on the second row. Those 4 were the stars of the show, really, at Le Mans. Paul Busby and Louis Gardner will be on the third row together, ahead of Stuart Reynolds, who's a little bit far down in 7th, ahead of Neil Butler. Callum Beeman is in 9th position, ahead of Thomas Reiter, who rounds out the top 10. I'll let the rest of the pro field cycle through on that screen for you, because it's a very big grid. In the Pro-Ams, it will be Liam Ahern who will be on pole position, ahead of Lucas Romano, then Jeremy De Boyer in 3rd, ahead of Huttenen in 4th. Dean Timms 5th place for him after a pretty strong Le Mans from him. Edward Packer will be 25th overall, ahead of Felix Pale. Chris Tucker, then it'll be Sebastian Norgran and Michael Patterman rounding out the top 10 in Pro-Am. And then down to the AMs very quickly while we get underway on our formation lap. Luis Boubier will be taking pole there, ahead of Anthony Letts. Jasper Starks will be 3rd place, ahead of Nora De Boyer and Dirk Boutz. Then it'll be Mark Bailey in 6th, ahead of Gus Franken. Connor Botting 7th, ahead of James Slates. Glenn Humberstone and Tony Norgran rounding out roughly the top 10 from the AM field. It's a huge entry list here today, and a huge entry into this race. 57 cars we have on the grid. The pros, Pro-Ams and AMs are now being split apart so they can get towards the line now and get this race underway. It's a very short formation lap indeed, and Thomas Cope has been given a right old advantage by everybody here. Not sure what this is all about, but for whatever reason, Albin Kjellberg doesn't want to be alongside him right now. Thomas Cope is going to make everybody wait regardless, and we're going to have to wait until we have the run down the hill towards Eau Rouge. We've got the endurance pit layout here today, so we'll be using both the Grand Prix pit lane and the pit lane on the run down towards Eau Rouge, just because we need the space, to be quite honest with you. With 57 cars, everybody will be, of course, using that pit lane during race 2. That's why Albin Kjellberg was waiting to pull alongside. But now he has, and Thomas Cope is ready to try and surprise the field here in the opening round of this season. It's the IMB World Series GT3 Championship, ready to kick off for Season 4. And we're underway with a very even start between Thomas Cope and Albin Kjellberg. Up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion. Kjellberg was very much on his toes there and ready to pounce, and he has done by taking the lead, or at least getting his nose in front through the kink and onto the Kemmel Straight for the first time. They go up towards Le Combe with Elliot Hellier just looking to get involved as well, although he doesn't want to make it 3 wide on lap 1. It's Harry Wills who's pulling to the outside of him as side by side for the lead results in contact. Both Thomas Cope and Albin Kjellberg have got around in front of the field. Hellier's going to take the lead. Harry Wills will drop to 3rd as a result, and everybody has to sprawl behind to avoid them.
what a chaotic start. Two of our big names already taking a tumble down the order. So Elliot Hellier is going to inherit that race lead. Remember, back in Le Mans, he was a contender, really strong contender, just a bit of an unknown. And, well, he's not complaining with his start whatsoever. He's got Louis Gardner for company as they now run their way downhill towards Pouhon. We haven't been able to actually quite catch the Pro-Am and the AM starts because of just how chaotic it's been with the pros. This is the AM's Lucas Romano leads the way for his home Grand Prix, but he has got Liam Ahern for company very close behind him. But already you're a big talking point to start this race off.
Very big talking point, and I'm sure when things settle down a little bit more, we'll get a replay of that one. But Lucas Romano has taken the lead away from Liam Ahern in these opening moments. Luis Boubier has been able to hold on to his lead a little bit better, and it looks a little bit calmer actually here. Andrew Letts going through in second place with Jasper Stark's third. They're all single file, and they're single file inside the top 10 for the most part, so that's all good news for everybody, because we don't want to see the chaotic start that we just saw in Pro between two big contenders. Thomas Cope and Albin Kjellberg coming to blows on lap 1 of the season. There it is. Just as if you wanted to settle tensions on the opening day, they just get heightened that little bit more. Hard to tell from these angles really quite who was at fault, but there was no doubt about the contact, and there was no doubt about the consequences either.
Oh yeah, for sure. You just saw both of them really mess it up. Back to the fight for the front. It's still Elliot Hellier that leads the way from Louis Gardner, and Harry Wills up there in the podium places in P3. Paul Busby and Neil Button around off the top 5, but nothing really separating them at all as we now round off the first lap of this 25-minute race here at Spa-Francorchamps. Down through Eau Rouge and then up the crest of Radio and then down the Kemmel Straight. Pretty much perfect overtaking opportunity. You've got a long time in that slipstream and similar to Le Mans, Spa very focused on that straight line speed, but everyone's got the slipstream. Could it be chaos down this straight?
Very much could be, or we could see a bit of reservation here. We will indeed. Gardner does not want to go through into Lacombe this time. Want to see where Kjellberg and Cope have ended up here. Kjellberg 15th now in the order. Thomas Cope is not findable. I think he might be in the pit lane at the moment, or at least I can't see him in the order right now, unless my eyes are deceiving me. I can no longer see him in the order. He is in the pit lane. He is indeed in the pit lane. We've had Jürgen Knockart also off the road down at the bus stop. Let's see how this happens. And this is a huge dive from Knockart. Too much of a dive, slammed straight into the side of one of the Porsches, and that was really clumsy.
Just a little bit, yeah, not great, really, and I think it definitely wasn't intentional because he just completely missed his braking point, which is a little bit unfortunate. This is James Slater a little bit further back as well. Another, yeah, not the most ideal moment going down in towards the source, but again, because of how close everyone is, it's very easy to make those small mistakes because, yeah, the Constantino effect, everyone's braking slightly earlier, and if you just mess that up slightly, you're definitely in sort of a state of panic, a state of shock, and you're just trying your best to avoid everyone. And for a couple of people, that's either onto the grass to spin yourself out or into the side of someone else and spinning them out.
Absolutely not in a state of panic at the moment is Luca Romano with a nice 1.7 second lead, and neither is Luis Boubier really. Andrew Letts is not putting too much pressure on the Audi just up in front for now, as we got side by side. This certainly is pressure for Thomas Reiter, who's trying to get through on Callum Beeman by the looks of things for 6th position in the race. They run very much side to side, door to door on the exit of the bus stop chicane, but Reiter is able to get in front, or at least to stay in front in that 7th place. Not quite get through into 6th place. He's defending from Stuart Reynolds at the moment, actually, who's struggling a little bit in this race. I think he's one of the better performing Mercedes, which maybe does say something about the form of that car around this particular circuit, but let's wait and see on that one. Up the hill through Eau Rouge and over the top at Radion as well. There's going to be a lot of slipstream here, and maybe a dive from 1 or 2 as well, as the field has not really broken up very much. We've still got a pair for 4th place at the moment, and a big train for 6th that Thomas Reiter is just trying to get away from. Inside line into Lecombe. He dives late on the brakes, and he's going to try and have this move done by the second part, and he has managed it. Beeman forced up onto the curb on the outside line. He will have to concede the place. Stuart Reynolds might try and capitalise into Bruxelles. Don't think he's able to, as they're side by side for 2nd in Pro-Am.
Oh, it is indeed getting a little bit argy-bargy as De Bover there gets ahead of Liam Ahern through the Lacombe chicane, and yeah, that was a fairly easy affair for him. Didn't really take too much of aggression, just managed to get up the inside. That's Jeremy DeBoiver up front. He really was a top contender in the AMs last season and really getting the ball running well with the Pro-Ams here for season number 4. But yeah, already we're seeing a little bit of field spread, but for the most part, everyone keeping it nice and tidy. A couple of little looks there down and towards the Piff Paff chicane for a couple of people, but does seem to be Porsche dominated fields for a good majority of the front runners, especially in the pros. It does seem to be the car for choice, at least around Spa.
We've certainly seen this in the iRacing Spa 24 hours. We had a Porsche winning ahead of a load of BMWs. They were the cars to pick, and you can certainly see that at the front of the AM field, even though there is an Audi leading, I'll say, and an Audi is indeed in the top 10 here as well, in the form of Connor Botting, I think that is, in the Audi. He's getting under a little bit of pressure right now down towards Bruxelles. Dive down the inside from one of the BMWs through this long looping right-hander. There's two of them going to remain side by side through the position. There are the manufacturers. Honeywell's doing a very good job in the Mercedes, but you can see not many of them inside the top 5. You'd expect that to change maybe as the season goes on, but we expect that in any series really. The preferred manufacturer will change round to round really.
It will, and that's the thing about making your right car choices. We see Albon Kjellberg, I think, making up a couple of places, trying his best really to recover. And the important thing is that he gets himself inside the top 10, because then he can really try and recover from a pretty shambolic race 1. Because the top 10 reversed, he can start, if he can get up to 10th, then he'll start on pole for race 2. And with his pace, you would expect him to really try and get away from the rest of the field if that does be the case. So for the last sort of 18 minutes of this race, that is definitely going to be his aim. This is Craig Schill going in towards Poole, and you can see their track in the Porsche just kind of a bit too much speed in, and that's the thing of Spa, is that a couple of corners can be a little bit deceiving. Poole is a very, very quick corner, but if you're going a little bit too quick, the car definitely is going to loop around on you like you just saw.
Certainly is. This is Fernando Torres coming out the final corner. Not indeed the former Liverpool and Chelsea striker, but instead a different one. But just having one or two connection problems down the front straight there. As we've got a battle for second. Oh, it's all gone wrong for second in Pro-Am now. We see the battle up towards the front go wrong in Pro. Now it's the turn of the Pro-Ams to come to blows at Le Combe by the looks of things. Let's see how it happened. Well, this is Am first, where the leader has had issues. Louis Boubier running wide out the last source corner. If he stayed on the road to not get an off track there, which is good at least. But further up the road, it was all kicking off with Liam Ahern there, who was involved. Who else might have been involved? I wonder. Not entirely sure for the moment. Liam Ahern certainly was. He looks like he might have gone off the road on his own there, straight through the grass. Although there's another BMW rejoining. I've just missed the first part of that, looking away. But not good news for Liam Ahern at all there. Not good news for the leaders in Pro-Am, really. That was all a bit chaotic.
Yeah, not great. Really not. And again, off that BMW. Oh, this is how it started. Liam Ahern had to avoid him, I think. Went over, and then with that other BMW tried to rejoin the circuit. So it's just a bit of confusion there for Liam Ahern, trying to avoid everything that was going on, trying to avoid the carnage and chaos, and unfortunately for him just got caught up. Still in P5, and still only a few seconds off the leader of Romano, who is completely dominating this race so far, it must be said. But he did well to save that. Definitely could have ended a lot worse for Liam Ahern.
Certainly could. Back to the pros now, and by the way, further down from this, Thomas Cope is re-emerged from the pit lane, and he probably will be finishing last in this race, really, but he just wants to complete 50% to at least get the points. He won't even get the benefit from a reverse grid, of course, because I can't see him getting a top 10. Albin Kjellberg currently in that group there. You just got a brief glimpse of. He's trying to fight his way forward into that top 10 so that he can, hopefully for him, run away with race 2. At the moment, Harry Wills has just gotten through into second place ahead of Louis Gardner, who's had a really good opening few laps to this race, but although got into second and couldn't really stick with the pace of Elliot Hellier. And now you can see the problem of Albin Kjellberg. Trying to get through the field is difficult. He's trying to follow Lee Holmes around the outside. Oh! He goes up onto two wheels. There's big contact. Two of the cars on his inside go off. The C's part for him. He's in 12th, but that could have been a lot worse for everybody.
Oh, it really could have been, and oh, how unlucky it would have been for Albin Kjellberg to be involved in 2 incidents in just the one race. But yeah, certainly not complaining at all, able now to get up into 12th place. But yeah, again, when you've got 3 cars fighting all the way through Malmedy and on the exit, it can very easily go very, very wrong. And that is such a big shame to see that, because it looked as though it was going to be a really, really good race. But now you can see Albin Kjellberg, he's got a good train of cars in front of him, actually. I think going all the way up to Stuart Reynolds. In fact, actually, Thomas Wright, everyone's quite close there in 6th place. He's down in 12th. So if he can, just get a bit of a shifty on, get onto the back of him, he can very easily make up a bit of progress. This is Glenn Humberstone. Oh, that is just unfortunate, because a small mistake like that, the smallest of things, and well, now his car is completely totaled, and he was just a passenger in that one.
Certainly was. And also off the road here is Jeremy De Boyver. Looks like he's already been off prior to this, really struggling to get into the pit lane like a drunk person on their way home, to be honest. Car's going all over the place there. Oh dear, this is why. So he was the one who got involved with Liam Ahern, and his suspension damage is really bad after this. You can see him rejoining here right into the path of traffic. We've already seen that in the past. But that is the full story of just how Liam Ahern and Jeremy De Boyver came to blows. But it is bizarre that it happened going in a straight line, really.
I mean, you might be right about them being a drunk person walking home. I mean, you are, starting a new year at uni, so I'm sure you'd know full well what that looks like. But yeah, Harry Wills, he's up in a 2nd place. Louis Gardner has not really left him alone at all, with the margin of about half a second separate them. But Elliot Hellier, he's having an awesome race. At the start, our 2 leaders, tangled with each other. He picked up the pieces, said thank you very much. He hasn't looked back since. The gap is only 2.8 seconds, but he's under really no pressure whatsoever. So at least so far, the tail of this race is a fight for second, and so far we've got Harry Wills, Louis Gardner, Neil Butler and Paul Busby all in the shout from 2nd all the way down to 5th. Could get quite spicy up there for that fight for second.
Certainly could. And by the way, Louis Gardner's having some connection problems right now, which can't be comforting for those around him. This is Matthew McBride just towards the lower part of the pro field as well, going way too deep into, slightly too deep, and then getting into the pit lane here. And he has been in there for a while now. Just come to a stop in the box. So not sure why, but he's in the pit lane, and now that's the 6th driver even to have come down pit lane. Thomas Jandrich being one of those who came in before the end of lap 1. Has since not re-emerged, so not looking good for him. Certainly, as Gardner just goes a little bit wide through Stavelot and towards the curve pull Frere. We've got Butler and Busby both closing in the Porsches. They're looking strong right now, and even Harry Wills is not really able to get away from them right now. Quite difficult to do that at Spa, really, with the slipstream that is available to you around this circuit. As bad as Monza or Le Mans, indeed. But it is still pretty difficult to get away as a result, and we're seeing that all over the field. Here's Ashraf Al-Haddad, by the way, in 8th place, and in the Mercedes once again showing itself not to be fantastic. Al-Haddad is certainly one of my picks for Pro-Am glory this season, all the way down in 8th place for the moment, and he's losing some ground to Francois Pedrow, just out in front in 7th place as well. So I'm starting to think this Mercedes is really looking rather weak, really, around this circuit.
I mean, fair play to Harry Wills then, because so far, oh my word, I honestly thought that Ashraf Al-Haddad was just going to go into the side of Pedro, but fortunately that wasn't quite the case. Bit of a shuffle up in pros as well, but yeah, you have to say with the theme of the Mercedes, up and down all 3 categories, you have to, tip your hat to Harry Wills of being able to maintain 2nd place. Barely, mind you. It is very, very close as Louis Gardner is eyeing up the move. Is he going to go for it down and towards Lake Com? He's brave on the brakes, gets it done, but Harry Wills going to fight it the long way round. Bit of a fight a bit further back as well. Harry Wills just about able to hang on. Now he's got the job through Malmedy. He's going to be on a compromised line on the fight towards Ravage. I think Louis Gardner is not quite going to be close enough, but it was a good attempt. But already you can see that one attempt has knocked him off just a little bit. Harry Wills still in front, and Butler was very, very quick to try and get in on the action too.
This is the big danger of Gardner going for a move on Harry Wills, as they all just take the complete mick of the track limits there through No Name Corner. Not a care in the world, any 4 of them. But anyway, Louis Gardner's got to be really careful with making a move here on Harry Wills, because he knows exactly what we just saw there and exactly what you just said. Neil Butler and Paul Busby are going to be all too welcome and all too enticed to try and go down the inside and take his position away if he just goes offline for one brief moment. So he's got to be really careful. He's got to have one eye on the mirrors while he's trying to make those moves, although that is very tricky. Excuse me. All this allowing Elliot Hellier to get nearly a 4-second lead so far in this race, with under 10 minutes to go and about 4 laps to go. It looks like he's gone with the race win.
that is, yeah, what we're, the theme that we've been seeing from Elliot Hellier. Again, as I said at the start, with Le Mans, he did so well to impress. Didn't quite get the result that he would have wanted. Not necessarily his fault per se, but yeah, he's certainly got the ground running with, the times that counts. See, quite often, press day, not really matter. You're just going out there to try and have a bit of fun. Now it's where it really starts to count, and he's really getting the ball rolling. Granted, a little bit of luck to get him into that situation, but he hasn't looked back at all. Bit of a fight still between these guys as Louis Gardner once again goes for the move down towards Les Source. That's not somewhere you really see it get it done because of now this run through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's getting fought back by Harry Wills. Are they going to be side by side now on this run towards probably the trickiest complex on the circuit? Louis Gardner is going to be on the outside, quickly becomes the inside as they head uphill, still side by side between the pair of them. Harry Wills hangs on, Gardner forced off because Butler and Busby are now getting involved, and oh my word, how have they managed to emerge in that 1, 2, 3 and 4 still in single file?
Well, Harry Wills there had to give space to a car that wasn't really there for him, blinking, and so he literally didn't see that one coming, Harry Wills, but he will hold on to second place. The guys will lose about 1.5 seconds as a result of it. But it doesn't really matter. Harry Wills has still held on to that place. Neil Butler has gained from it as well. Poor Busby lifted out, and it was probably the sensible choice as Dean Timms tries to get through on Chris Thacker here. These guys have all benefited from the incidents earlier on. Liam Ahern trying to rebuild some of that damage. Oh, and there's contact there. That looked a bit strange. The two of the cars getting connected. Liam Ahern is back onto the podium. It's a BMW 123, but that was a strange bit of contact.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're going to take a look. This is Liam Ahern. Ooh, this is going to get very, very, not the best of things. You can see there the Mercedes having to make a bit of contact. But yeah, Liam Ahern in a bit of a desperate situation. I think he's getting a bit aggressive, wants to really go for it. Now up to P3. There's Dean Timms now demoted to 4th because of that contact. But yeah, for a Mercedes, still doing a really, really good job. This is Anthony Bruce-Letts in 2nd place, about 1 second off Luis Bubio, who I think did really, really well up at Le Mans, and he's got the ball rolling again here for round number 1. So Bubia does seem to be one of the favourites towards the front, but yeah, Letts is still there. You can definitely see that the gap, 1.3 seconds, but visually that gap isn't too big at all.
He won the 2nd race at Le Mans in the AM category, so he is certainly one of the strong contenders, as Harry Wills is once again having to do some defending, this time from Neil Butler, who's just in behind there in the Porsche, looking to make it a Porsche 1-2 with just 7 minutes to go right now. He switches to the inside line, won't quite go for it. I think we've got 4 laps to go on this occasion. It's going to be quite tight, but it's certainly too many, however many it is, as far as Harry Wills is concerned, because his grip on this 2nd place is slowly loosening, although his straight line speed is pretty good indeed. Neil Butler not really with the acceleration or the straight line speed down towards Eau Rouge and Radion to really make that work. Now in the slipstream though, can he do anything? Can he do more than just pull alongside with his nose? Can he actually power on to the inside here? He's going to hit the wall of air and slow down a little bit, but he is going to get fully alongside, and he is going to have the place going into Lecombe surely. He's stuck up on the inside line, not really able to run the car out as much as he wanted, but round the outside through the 2nd part, that's going to be the position. Neil Butler's into 2nd place, and Harry Wills is going to have a hard time even hanging on to the podium at this rate.
Yeah, you have to say he might fall off it. And also there, Thomas Reiter in 6th place, not too far off. The more these guys fight, the more cars come into the equation, all because Harry Wills wanted to hang on to 2nd place. This is Michael Patterman and Felix Bayal fighting over the fringes of the top 5 in the Pro-Am category. But yeah, Harry Wills, he's tried really hard to hang on to 2nd place, did a really good job of it for a while, but yeah, Neil Butler sailing around the outside of the 2nd part of Lecombe there, just going to show how it is done. But yeah, because of how hard Harry Wills fought, more cars are getting involved, and it's just going to get hectic. And yeah, it's just a much bigger risk. But hey, there's not too long left of this race. If he can hang on this long, you have to say it's not that much longer for him to hang on to. So P3 for now, but again, a lot of questions to be unanswered. And as we said, the Mercedes doesn't seem to be the strongest car. So even if he does finish 5th, 6th, I still count that as a good result.
Yeah, I mean, this is all just my speculation, I guess, from just watching this race and the iRacing official event, the Spa 24 Hours that happened over the summer, where we really did see, and of course that was run on the same, was it the same build yet? I'm not quite sure, but it was a similar one to this anyway. And so, yeah, just speculating as a result of that. But Harry Wills is not going down without a fight here. He's going for it at 2nd place. Neil Butler has to run around the outside. Did he go off the track to complete that move. That might be a controversial one, but he's going to keep the position for now. Harry Wills is not going to let him keep it, though I do think that... dear me. I do think he does have a bit of straight line speed to give, and that's why he's doing so well. As Albin Kjellberg is down into pit lane, he will get points from this race at the very least, but it looks like he's been involved in an incident maybe, and he's had to come in. This is a different incident involving Francois Perdue. He just gets shunted by one of the Audis and goes for a bit of a long jump competition. I'm afraid he's going to have to give up some places as a result of that, but Albin Kjellberg has had to come down pit lane. He was on the door of a top 10 and not going to be able to benefit from that reverse grid. As side by side for second place, Neil Butler once again on the inside line and uses the outside to his advantage through the second part, which gives him the inside for Malmedy, and he often keeps the place, although Harry Wills putting up a bigger fight this time. Still not able to. Butler will hold on to second
for now, but we saw there 2 wide, 2 rows deep, the fight between Gardner and Busby also going through there. So yeah, a lot of stuff to try and dissect. This is just how busy this fight is. Thomas Reiter well and truly established in this battle too, but Harry Wills does not let Neil Butler get away. And again, as you said earlier, with Spa, it's so tricky to get away because of the slipstream and of course with Harry Wills straight line speed. Look at him, he's practically pushing him on the exit of Pouon to the outside now. What will be the Piff Paff chicane, but Harry Wills is confident, he's brave, he's on the race line, he can brake with confidence, he sails round the outside. It's going to be the inside for the next bit of the Piff Paff chicane. Butler gives him a wide berth, still there with the also momentum. He's gone round though, he's going to get collected. Has he collected anyone else with him? Gardner goes through up in a second place. Neil Butler though, fortunately, I guess, lucky in an unlucky situation, only himself that has paid the price.
Wills and Busby both had to slow down as a result, so Gardner and also Reiter have gained places inside the top 5 there. Big drama here on the third last lap of this race. It looks to be not good news for Neil Butler, I'm afraid. He's going to lose points. He's going to lose out on benefiting from the reverse grid as well. Now, did Harry Wills go wide or did Butler squeeze too much? Very hard to tell from this angle. Oh, that's a tight one. That is a very difficult one to call because it doesn't look like either of them really moved at all. What is remarkable, though, is the fact it only took out Neil Butler, despite that contact with Harry Wills that took him up into the air slightly. No contact was made there, and it looks like Wills might be in the pit lane as well because Gardner has got free rein on second place and Busby and Reiter have been left to fight over third.
How has this come about? As we see, yeah, Neil Butler with a very stricken Porsche. Unfortunate for him. Harry Wills as well. Between the pair of them, I don't really think you can call that. Again, it's not our job to. And there's Harry Wills. Oh my word. He is smoking a bit more than a Primerian bridge by the look of that engine, and that is not great news for him whatsoever. We're going to take a look as to what happened down towards the bus stop chicane. Was it just a bit too quick on the downshifts? No, he got tagged and tapped into the barrier, and that is what caused that incident. And we're seeing a lot of drama and a lot of chaos.
Certainly are. Yeah, that was big contact for Harry Wills. So outlined at the start of this race here, Zach, 4 drivers who were likely contenders maybe for this championship, but certainly for this race to kick the season off, and 3 of them have ended this race or ended up in the pit lane at some point. Thomas Cope is still out there and lapping, and he's actually going to gain some places. He's going to be rewarded for his efforts here, which is good to see. Obviously he's not going to gain from the reverse grid, of course, and we already knew that a long time ago, but yeah, he's really gained from this. And it is bizarre that a lot of the main contenders have ended up out this race, and they're going to have a lot of fighting to do through the field during the reverse grid race as well, although not that far behind Elliot Hellier, who is more than 10 seconds in this lead now. Certainly less than 10 seconds here, though. The AM leading battle is on between Lewis Boubier and Andrew Letts. We thought this one was done earlier on, but it looks like Andrew Letts may at least have one go on the last lap.
Maybe we'll have to wait and see. He's, definitely going to be running out of opportunities to get this done. Boubier is going to know that he's not got very long to hang on to this lead for at all. So Boubier, he's having to do his absolute hardest just to keep it clean, keep it tidy, and make sure he covers all his bases. But let's, at this point, it's just do or die. It's send the move and try and get it done, because you have to say it's probably going to be done down and towards the bus stop chicane for a final attempt. But again, we'll have to see, because Boubier's had such a tight grasp on this race all race long. Let's doesn't want to waste any opportunity that he might be given.
Certainly doesn't. He's going to try and use the Camel Straight, I would imagine, to his advantage. This is further up in the pros with Callum Beeman inside the top 10. And it's the final corner to the pit lane for him. another pro car is up in the pit lane. Chris Chatterton now 10th place with Lucas Romano. Yeah, the first of the Pro-Ams, now in 11th overall, which is quite remarkable considering what we had earlier on in this race. But so many of these drivers have been in the pit lane so far in this race. We're now up to 13 that have been in a race where you don't need to stop. Callum Beeman has become the 14th as into the final corner comes Andrew Letts. The time, of course, has elapsed, but the pro drivers haven't finished the race yet. So these guys have got one more, and there's going to be one more chance for Andrew Letts to go through at Le Combe, you would imagine. Let's see just how it's going to transpire. It looks like everything's staying where they are inside the top 5 for the pros, but they are in the second half of their lap now. It's not staying the same in Pro-Am though. Liam Ahern is recovering well, and he's now into second place. Dean Timms wants a piece of the podium as well, and he'll be down the inside into Bruce Towles. He gets that third place ahead of Chris Thacker in the BMW, who's going for second himself, has now dropped to 4th. But can Andrew Letts get that run out of La Source? Can he just get the slipstream here and have a move? He might not be close enough here. The Audi might just have the legs going up towards Le Combe. It looks like he's just been able to do it, and he has. He will hold on for now.
Oh, he will, and I think now the leaders are now coming around towards the final couple of corners in this race. Elliot Hellier, he's done a fantastic job, and, well, a great way to get the season going.
Avoiding all of the chaos of today, Elliot Hellier will come through the final couple of corners and overcome the disappointment of the press day to win the opening round of the IMB Road Series GT3 Championship EU for Season 4. Louis Gardner looks like he's going to hold on for a great second place ahead of Paul Busby, and Thomas Reiter will be inside the top 5 as well with 4th. Some real surprises up here in the opening moments of this season, and Stuart Reynolds holds on for a top 5 finish, just ahead of the best performing Ferrari of the day, Andy Miller, who managed to keep out of trouble very well all throughout that race. It's nearly 5 seconds in Pro-Am, where Lucas Romano is going to take victory ahead of Liam Ahern, Dean Timms and Chris Thacker, who are all coming across the line pretty much as one, although they do stay in the same places through the final chicane. This time around, Ahern will get second ahead of Timms. What's it like behind in the AMS though? Luis Boubier under pressure, and he's going to have to defend this lead right to the very final corner. Andrew Letts right in the slipstream, going to try and get through if he can. He's gaining here. He needs to have a very good Blanchimont to get the run into the final corners. They've both had a good run through. Will there be a dive from the Porsche to the inside? It will have to be outside, but he's very late on the brakes. He might just have this with the inside of the final corner. Boubier runs wide to try and get the run off the corner. Letts shoves him out, and it looks like he's going to take it, is he? Side by side over the line, and Andrew Letts will take it. Slightly controversial through the final couple of corners. Luis Boubier is going to be pretty furious with that one, but Andrew Letts will take it by just about a 10th.
I was in awe of that move there. Oh my word, from Letts to just sail around the outside, the bravery, the confidence that he had on the brakes into that final chicane. Of course, on the race line, we're going to take another look at it because we just have to. We can't really see it because of the trees, but when they emerge into the camera, you can just see that Porsche so brave. And of course, Boubier doesn't want to take too many risks. He doesn't want to run his rival off the circuit or anything like that, or have a crash, because that would be the worst way to end it. But Letts just with the send of the century, of course, running a little bit wide on the exit, both of them getting a bit of a tank slap on as they exited the final corner, and Letts still managed to get the run to win the drag race to the line. That definitely could have gone either way, but you have to say that with Letts in his situation, he almost had to go for that, and fair play because he managed to pull it off.
Just about did it. And what an exciting first race that was. Thomas Cope, by the way, the final driver to come across the line, and he will now complete the 13 pro drivers that actually saw the checkered flag at the end of that race. Here are the results in all their glory. It'd be Elliot Hellier who would have avoided most of the chaos of that opening round ahead of Louis Gardner, who held off Paul Busby and Thomas Reiter to the line. Stuart Reynolds just about got a top 5 ahead of Andy Miller. Jonas Dreyer had a quiet race in 7th, so did Kieran Smart in 8th. Arias Diomatas was in at 9th place ahead of Chris Chatterton, running out the top 10. Then Neil Butler, who recovered in the end to finish 11th. Despite the damage, Callum Beeman was just about on the lead lap. Thomas Cope managed to drive to 13th place after his early stop. Harry Wills, Albin Kjellberg will be disappointed with their opening rounds. So will Matthew McBride, Lee Holmes and Kenny Hermans. Didn't get to the end of that race. And of course, Thomas Jandrich, who's stuck down there in 19th as well. In the Pro-Ams, it was Lucas Romano who also managed to keep away from the chaos. Liam Ahern just about battled back to second, ahead of Dean Timms and Chris Thacker. Then it was Michael Patterman and Felix Pearl coming over the line in a fight for 4th place. Eshravo Haddad managed to create a train of his own in 7th. That was Purdue, Buchan, Vlamink all just in behind them. Alex Bumberg just missed out on a top 10, but he was only just under 20 seconds away from the leader. Edward Packer was 13th ahead of Juho Huutonen, who finished 13th, who we might get a word with in a second. Fernando Torres was 14th ahead of John Williams, who'll be disappointed with 15th. Jeremy De Boiver, after contact with Liam Ahern, finishes down in 16th as Sebastian Norgran and Stefan Schuster in 17th and 18th. And that might well be it for the Pro-Ams. It is indeed. A few more Ams to speak of. 20 of them in this field. Louis Bouvier and Andrew Letts battled to the line, but it was Letts who won over the line. Dirk Bouts completing the podium ahead of Navarro De Boiver and Mark Bailey at top 5. Tony Norgran finished in 6th place ahead of Tom Bingham. Then it was Joran Reigns battling with, Yama Sustermoinen battling with Timo McKeown to round out your top 10. And let's just continue with that, shall we? Gus Franken was 11th ahead of Kurt Van Hoekenacker. Then it was Carl Pearson 13th ahead of Jasper Starks, who qualified 3rd and dropped well down. Glenn Humberstone picked himself out the wall for 15th place. Alistair Hatcher was 16th ahead of Craig Schill. And a few laps down was the likes of Connor Botting, James Slates and Jürgen Knockhart to round out your humongous 57 car field. Well, a very, very exciting first race of this season, and we've got a few of the drivers joining us now for a couple of interviews. And let's start with the overall race winner and the class winner in Pro, of course, as well. Elliot Hellier, welcome to the booth. Elliot, good to have you here. We didn't see a lot of you then, I've got to admit. 12 seconds of a victory. You must be very pleased, although it does kind of come with the caveat that obviously everybody else was battling a little bit. But how are you feeling out there? Were you feeling like you deserve that 12-second lead over that race?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because after I think it's a shame really, because it would have been a really good race in the end. All of us are really close, obviously, on qualifying time, so it was a shame to see what happened on lap 1. I think, to be honest, though, yeah, probably did deserve it, because I had Louis and Harry right on me even after that, sort of 2 tenths, and I managed to gap them before they started battling. So I think it probably would have been me, Thomas, and Albin in a trio anyway. So yeah, I'm obviously pleased to take the win, but I'm gutted that happened on that one, because I was really looking forward to racing them both.
It was a shame to see. Now, you battled your way to 3rd place during the press day in the reverse grid. Obviously, a slightly bigger grid, but at the top 10 still get reversed, so it doesn't change too much for you. And I guess you're starting a bit further back this time as well. But how are you expecting this to go with the, obviously a different track and a bit of a new experience for you as well? How do you think the reverse grid will go?
I don't want to say dubious of it, but these first couple, so press day and here, the Porsche for me just hasn't felt settled, especially at Le Mans. To be honest, I was really happy with the results that I got, because I was really struggling in practice, like I was miles off the pace. The car just wasn't there, and I kind of felt a little bit the same here. You got the BMWs and the Mercs, which are just so planted and so strong. So I'm just going to take my time, take it easy, because I know everyone's running quite low wing. So I'm just going to see if everyone burns up their tyres in the first sort of half an hour or so, and just pick them off as the race goes on.
We look forward to seeing it. Elliot, thanks very much for coming to join us, and good luck in race 2.
Thanks very much, mate.
Thanks very much. Elliot Hellier, victorious in race 1. How will he do in race 2? Speaking of race 1, by the way, we'll get another a class-winning driver into the booth with Anthony Letts. Welcome, Anthony. Good to have you here. Great battle towards the line between you and Louis Bouvier. Talk us through those final couple of corners where you eventually caught up and eventually was able to have a go.
Yeah, I thought I was stuck in P2 for pretty much the majority of the race, and then the last few laps, my times just started to come down. I ideally wanted to bide my time and get the overtake done right, But unfortunately, there was a bit of contact on the last corner, which kind of soured it a bit.
Mentioned there that obviously the Porsche seemingly got stronger towards the end of that race, or maybe the Audi got weaker. It's hard to know. But how do you think that'll play into your car's favour maybe during the 50-minute race? Do you think that kind of a longer run during the second race will be maybe advantageous to your car compared to the Audi that you were fighting with throughout that race?
Probably if someone can drive it, but I'm really struggling with the Porsche, and I used a very safe setup for this race. As the main race is going to use a bit more of a sketchy one, so I'll be surprised if I make it halfway.
But we'll be watching regardless with interest indeed. But congratulations on race 1 victory first of all, Anthony. Good luck for race 2 coming up.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Anthony. Let's victorious in AM, and while we're on the AM category, it's only right that we go to second place in AM as well. Lewis Bouvier joins us. Lewis, welcome to the booth. Slightly disappointing for you, I guess, to lose out on that race win by only 1/10. Just through those final couple of corners from your perspective.
Bruce was doing a great job. He was catching me lap after lap, the last few laps. The Porsche just seems lightning fast around here. Then into the final 2 corners, into the bus stop. He had the inside on the second part of the bus stop, and I tried to go around the outside. I was still axle to axle, so I was hoping for the overspeed, and he just ran me wide a bit. I think it was maybe a racing incident. We'll see what the stewards say, because, you know, if I have a chance of taking it back, then I'm going to take every opportunity. But it was a fun race. Audi's a difficult car, but it's okay.
And how do you think the Audi is going to behave over the 50 minutes coming up? Is it going to be more of a challenge this time?
I think so. The last few laps, the tyres just felt they were going off. So over a longer stint without a tyre change, maybe it'll be quite slow. But hope to make some positions up from the reverse grid order and keep this championship alive.
Absolutely, it's very early days indeed. So congratulations on second place to kick off the season, and good luck for the race 2, or for race 2 that is just coming up soon.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks very much. Lewis Bouvier, second place in AM. And now, since he's been waiting so long, he was first in there, and we've finally gotten to him. Juho Huhtinen, 13th in Pro-Am here in the first race. Juho, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. Just talk us through your race a little bit. How did those first 25 minutes of this season go for you?
Well, it was quite an adventure, let's say like that. I think that the first 6 turns were okay, and then on turn 7, if I remember correctly, I got BMW on my side, and after that I had my steering wheel 20 degrees sideways and just drove whole race through. So there's lots of improvement for the next race.
Absolutely, and you've got a 50-minute race coming up to indeed improve on it. Just tell us a little bit about what you're expecting from the first couple of corners in this second race, because obviously you mentioned there the chaos that we actually didn't see the one that you were involved with. We certainly did see the opening couple of corners in towards Les Combes for the first time, particularly for Pro as well. There was a little bit of chaos in Pro-Am as well. What are you expecting from those first few corners this time around? Do you think it'll be cleaner or possibly even worse?
I think that if everybody has calmed down their nerves, it's going to be much cleaner. But if everybody wants to be running full speed and try to win the race in the first lap, it's going to be chaos.
Certainly is. We look forward to seeing it, though.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing you back out there again, Juho. So good luck for race 2 coming up, and yeah, we'll see you out there.
Thanks, mate.
Very much. Juho Huhtinen preparing for race 2 after 13th in race 1. We've got one final interview as well with Paul Busby, who was 3rd in the overall and pro race throughout race 1. Paul, welcome to the booth. I mean, it got a little bit busy towards the end of that race there. You saw a couple of incidents unfold before you as well, but what were those last few laps like in particular?
Hiya. Yeah, they were crazy, to be honest with you. Like you say, there was incidents happening in front of me. I was so lucky I didn't get collected in some of them. And yeah, it was just stressful the whole time, really.
What are you expecting from race 2? Is it going to be even more stress because you are starting from 8th place this time?
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be even tougher, to be honest, because obviously double the race length. So I'm already sweating enough after the first one. So it's just going to be a case of trying to keep the concentration. The Porsche is quite deadly here, so I'm fighting it all the time. So yeah, battle of endurance is one, I think.
Absolutely, but we very much look forward to it, and good luck for it. Paul, congratulations on a podium in race 1, and we look forward to maybe seeing you on the podium again in race 2. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Cheers, boys.
Thanks very much. Paul Busby, 3rd place in race 1 there. We do indeed have time for a very short break coming up right now. I know the session is up right now, but we'll be returning in just a few moments' time. Don't go anywhere. The 50-minute race in the IMB GT3, IMB World Series GT3 Championship for Season 4, Race 2, the reverse grid race is coming up very soon. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Spa for race 2 of the IMB World Series GT3 Championship. We're kicking off season 4 and we've kicked it off in a fantastic way with the first 25-minute race. It was great entertainment from start to finish. We've got double the length and a mandatory pit stop to deal with as well, so very much looking forward to it. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'm alongside Zach Sweeney for this evening, and Zach, it lived up to the billing. We were expecting a lot and it delivered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there with that one, because again, after Le Mans, we definitely knew this season had promise. Of course, only one race in, not even finished with round 1 yet. We still got 50 minutes, but you know, the theme always is the reverse grid races, just as, if not even better than the first race. So a lot of promise going into race number 2, and yeah, honestly, just looking back on race 1, so many things to you know, just to think about. You know, the race winning move in AM, the chaos that ensued at the start of the pros, the fight for second as well that happened, and again, it's just so close up and down the field. And well, here's how they line up for race number 2.
Yeah, goodness me, this is the top 10 of each class at least. Chris Charlton on pole ahead of Ajus Yomatas in second. Kieran Smart will be third alongside Jonas Dreyer, with Andy Miller running at the top 5. Stuart Reynolds 6th, ahead of Thomas Wright and Paul Busby. Louis Gardner will be 9th, ahead of race winner from race 1. Elliot Herrier in 10th position, ahead of Neil Butler, who'll be one to watch as well. So Callum Beeman and the likes of Cope, Wills, Kjellberg all lined up there as well. So watch out for them. TJ Fleming will be on the pole for the Pro-Ams, ahead of Martin Buchan. Then it will be Francois Pedriel in that third place, ahead of Eshraf El Haddad. Felix Pearl will be rounding up the top 5, ahead of Michael Patterman. Chris Thacker will be 7th, ahead of Dean Timms. Then it will be Liam Ahern, who was the pole sitter in qualifying for this race, and Lucas Romano rounding out the top 10 in Pro-Am. Finally, in the AM category, it will be Timo McKeown ahead of his teammate and fellow countryman Jarmo Sastamoinen. Jeroen Reigns will be in third, ahead of Tom Bingham. Then it will be Tony Norgran in 5th, ahead of Mark Bailey. Navarro de Boiva will be 7th, ahead of Dirk Bouts. Louis Boubier and Anthony Letch will be lining up side by side as they ended race 1. We've got double the length to enjoy this one here, Zach. It should be a very entertaining race indeed.
Oh, it really should be. And again, with the pit strategy, things like that, Spa, it's just race 1, double the length. You've got reverse grids, you've got the pit stop, and everything. It's just going to be chaos from start to finish. I'm really looking forward to this one. Again, we've got the fast guys trying to fight their way through. Albin Kjellberg as well is a talking point, because he's really far down and he's going to want to make him into race 1 as well. But yeah, honestly, you just don't know. You're expecting a good race, but you just don't know how good it's going to be, and it's that excitement that I'm really looking forward to.
The excitement is going to have to, or at least the tension pre-race will have to go on for a little bit longer as the drivers make their way out of La Source for the first time, and they'll get the green flag on the rundown towards Eau Rouge, which I only feel made the problems worse, actually. Lecom for the first time last race, so let's see, as Juho Huutonen put it so perfectly, see if everybody tries to win the race at turn 1, or let's see if they decide that it is nearly an hour this race, so maybe we should take it a bit calmer. The lights are going to come on either way, and Chris Charlton is going to be in control of the field, and Yomatas was nowhere near as attentive on that start as we saw from Albin Kjellberg starting from second place in race 1. He's allowed a couple of car lamps to open up to Chris Charlton, who will run away from the field, although he will get slipstreamed quite heavily through turn 1 or through the Kemmel Kink, I should say, for the first time up towards Lecom. Here we go. Yomatas really gains with a good lot of straight line speed, but they'll be side by side, or single file in the top 3, I should say. 3 wide in the background. That could have been Kjellberg right down towards the inside, really making place. In fact, it was Louis Gardner making great progress. Oh, we've already got a car straight into the wall. That could be Dean Timms, maybe. It's El Haddad, excuse me, from third place. It's El Haddad who's gone straight off into the wall. He was side by side with one of the BMWs, and this is the danger of this corner. You can have contact and it has big consequences.
Ah, what an unfortunate way for El Haddad to start this race, and again, that's the danger of Eau Rouge, as you say. It's such a sketchy corner, so quick, and when it's on lap 1 as well, you've got so much stuff going on. But here's how the AMs get away. It's Timo McEwen that leads the way from Jarmo Sastamoinen. A lot of carnage in the background as well, a lot of cars trying to funnel their way through, but can McEwen hang on to P1 as they now barrel their way down in towards Lecom for the first time? A fight of a force between Norgran and Bingham as they come in now under brakes. You can see that the 51 Porsche getting the move done there. That's Bingham up into 4th place. McEwen leads from Sastamoinen and Reigns, Bingham and Norgran, your top 5. But already you're in 50-minute race. We're not even half a lap in for a lot of these guys, and well, already a lot of things to talk about.
Certainly Certainly was. Louis Gardner with a great start here in the pros, already up to 6th place. But let's have a look at what's been happening down in the AM category. I think this is a little bit further down. Sebastian Norkrag going right round the outside of No Name Corner and going straight into the wall by the end of it as well. But on the completion of lap 1, it's Chris Chatterton who has taken the lead ahead of Yomata, Dreyer, Smart and Reynolds, your top 5. Further down, there's all sorts going on as Jerome Range from 3rd place has got off at Pouon in the Audi. Did he jump or was he pushed? We're about to find out. I think he's going to jump on his own.
Oh, that is, again, not the way you want to get a race started again through Pouon, where the car will just drop if you're not careful, and it's such a quick corner, one of the quickest on the circuit, which again, to be fair, Spa is comprised of a multitude of very quick corners that you do have to be careful of, because it will spit you out if you let it, and unfortunately for the Audi, it just wasn't meant to be in terms of saving that one. But looking at Thomas Reiter and Albin Kjellberg making some steady progress. Here's the Porsche now looking to the inside. That's Reiter on Gardner side by side as they run through. Now Kjellberg wants to slice the pie as they head towards Malmedy, unable to really make much progress. Here's Reiter though on the back of Louis Gardner, both of whom are trying to work their way through the field. As to be fair, is the theme for a lot of people. Butler as well, he's doing quite well, up 2 places, but the big star Albin Kjellberg 7 places from 15th on the grid. He's really not waiting around in this race whatsoever.
Yeah, and this is Elliot Hellier has gone nowhere in the opening moments of this race as well. He's in 10th place, exactly where he started. Great start from Lucas Romano as well. Race 1 winner down in Pro-Am, already inside the top 5 after dispatching pole sitter Michael Patterman from this one. Well, he wasn't pole sitter, was he? But he was further up than Lucas Romano was, certainly. And he's just been pushed outside of the top 5. But the top 3 are getting away. Didier Vlamic with some very strong pace here in the opening moments of this one, and just in behind him it is Martin Buchan there in the Audi, looking to make a bit of progress. So we've got side by side and progress being made by Anthony Letts by the looks of things. He's been making some moves, and he's nearly ahead of Tom Bingham already, up to 4th place for the man who won race 1, although he's just been turned around in a big way by Navarro de Boiva, I think that was. Oh, and it's caused a big stack up involving Luis Boubier, who's in 2nd place at the end of race 1. He got turned around through Bruxelles there. As Letts pulls off, he will be back to the pit lane.
Oh no, that is going to be heartbreak there for Anthony Letts, who again got off to probably one of the perfect starts here for race 2. You can see they're trying to settle in behind the Porsche in front of him, but the BMW just unfortunately was enough alongside that, caused the car to turn around for Letts, and really did cause a big pile up behind. He's going to now have to get a tow back to the pit lane, and you have to say that his race is pretty much done, as we see Mantis as well. The fight up in the pros, is this something that has gone slightly wrong for him? It is indeed. Again, one of those things that we saw at the start of race 1. And again, another car off with him going into the bus stop chicane. Just that Constantino effect. That was Albin Kjellberg going off with him. So again, really not the best of starts for a lot of people. And again, under brakes in a straight line, they're coming into contact.
And there it is. He didn't even get to the end of that lap, so went straight back to the pit lane, clearly furious with how this race has gone. Let's not forget, you do get a drop round in this championship. It can no longer be the final round as it was last season for some, but indeed you can have a drop round. Not something to Neil Butler here as well. There's a bit of a split in the group, I noticed, and this is part of the reason why. Side-to-side contact with Butler and one of the other Porsches. It could have been Elliot Hellier, that was. It was indeed, I think. Hellier's dropped down to 16th, so that would check out. Let's see if it was. No, indeed, it was. Well, this is different, actually. This is Lee Holmes trying to avoid the two just up in front, and he's going to get nearly turned into the wall, turned into the gravel, and turned around, and then he gives a bit of payback, not intentional, of course, to the BMW who was off with him. This is all very chaotic in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're not settling into this race at all. They're just going guns a-blazing and hoping that it's going to work out well for them. This is Luis Boubier. This is what happened to him, of course. 2nd place in race 1, held on to P1 for a good while. But yeah, you can see they're going through the last of chicane and into the pit lane. So yeah, not the ideal start again for a lot of people. It's just there's not really a word that can do it justice. Chris Chatterton, though, is under a bit of pressure from Jonas Dreyer. They're going to run side by side into the bus stop chicane again. Chatterton trying to hold him off and go the long way around in the BMW. There's Smart trying to get in, get the drive off the corner as well, get up in a second place. We've got a four-way fight for the race lead here in the pros right at the sharp end of the field. Is the Mercedes of Dreyer going to go for the dive in towards turn one? He's going to go for it, but Chatterton sees him coming, goes the long way around. Both of them going to be compromised on the exit. Smart had to get on the anchors, I think, there, just to avoid the rear end of that Mercedes in front of him. Still single file now as they head up towards Eau Rouge.
Yeah, indeed. Smart looking for a way through, although he's kind of not going to be able to, really. He's only able to push Dreyer back to the rear of Chatterton here now, and he might be able to make a move as a result. Chatterton pulls wide. Dreyer was expecting him to defend, and so now he has to duck to the inside line. Will Smart make it 3 wide? I think he's going to be smart here and stay behind by other things, although he's going to try and follow through for second. Side by side between the two BMWs, Chatterton with the inside through the second part. Looks like he's going to hold on through Malmedy, and he does indeed. Gardner not able to get through on Stuart Reynolds, who's defending 4th place really viciously. Looking towards the inside as well as Thomas Reiter in, would you believe it, the best performing Porsche down in 6th place. As this top 6 continue to not leave each other alone at the moment. And so Jonas Dreyer has now got the lead, but it's not a very big one.
And yeah, again, it's so hard to get away from each other when it comes to Spa. The slipstream is so strong, and everyone is so close on pace. You can't really get away. This is Dede Vlaminck leading the way in the Pro-Ams. He's got Buchan just behind with Felix Payal in P3. So again, a 3-way fight for the lead in the Pro-Ams. And yeah, between pros and pro-ams, we're getting a really, really good show, at least for the race leads. It's sort of calm in a sense relative to this race. It's complete carnage in terms of action and overtakes and things like that. But yeah, no spins and no crashes, at least for now. Touch wood. Fortunately, that it's going to stay this clean all the way throughout, because so far, you know, to see 3 cars fighting for it. We've also got Romano there in P4. I believe he did take the victory here in race 1, so he himself is making some good progress forward there in 4th. He's only 1 second off the back of this train. He's bringing Michael Patterman with him, so you can just see how quickly things can turn on their heads.
Romano's the only race winner from race 1 to have not had issues so far in this race, although his progress has slowed ever so slightly in his march to the front of the field. It's not exactly slowing to a complete halt, but just more of a crawl at this stage. He's still got more than 40 minutes to go, let's not forget, so plenty of time. Time is on his side, as there's all kinds of battling going on in Pro right now as well, with Stuart Reynolds and Louis Gardner again, although the two of them will stay in the same positions they were before. Thomas Reiter will decide not to make a move of his own and instead try and facilitate a pass for Gardner here in the hopes that he can maybe follow through. But it's pretty difficult to do that to a blinking BMW, as there is just up in front of him right now. Let's see, Stuart Reynolds could well be under pressure here. Although Reiter going to have a go himself as Jonas Dreyer comes under pressure from Chatterton, who decides to just stay behind and maybe try and get away from the rest. That's a dive. That could have gone so very wrong for Stuart Reynolds. Big commitment from him there to take the racing line as Thomas Reiter tries to capitalise, but nobody will change places.
Somehow this is Vlaminck under pressure still from Buchan, who is hammering the pressure down in that Audi. He's got also Felix Payal for company. Is the Audi close enough to go for the move? Not quite on this particular occasion, but you can see Vlaminck just thinking about going for it. Also with Payal going for some sort of a look. Not entirely sure what he was thinking there, but again, maybe just to scare the Scotsman potentially. Not entirely sure, but yeah, you can just say, see, the stakes are so high. This is now a 5-car train for a race lead, like it is in the pros, and it doesn't seem to be relenting anytime soon. This should, at least until the pit window, because usually that's when things start to space out a little bit. This is going to be the thing we need to get used to seeing.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the pit window will spread things out a little bit, but we're not going to be there for a good 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes for some. So there's plenty of this kind of racing remaining in this race, as we've got side by side for 8th place, for 7th in Am. Then Humberstone recovering nicely from outside the top 10 at the start of this race, because that's where he finished the first one. He's now into 7th place, allowing all sorts of drivers to catch up from behind, as well as still no positions change in Pro, but they try to change places. Thomas Reiter trying to go down the outside that time of Louis Garner, but not able to do it on this occasion. So he's go on board with the leader in Pro-Am. Dido Vlaming just up in front with Buchan just in behind. Then it's Pearl, Romano and Patterman. Rounding out the top 5, we've got two pretty big trains actually going on for the lead in Pro-Am.
It's awesome to see there. Stuart Reynolds, I think, actually getting up into 4th place in the pros. This is Harry Wills. Oh no, there he is. He's had a bit of a moment, but he's here. He's in 9th place, and he's about 1.5 seconds off the back of Paul Busby there in 7th place, who's also got Thomas Reiter for company in 6th place. So wow, that actually could get a bit spicy up for, or could it actually be a 7-car fight for the race lead if Paul Busby gets a bit of a move on and gets onto the back of Thomas Reiter. At the moment, I say only 6, but it's not only 6. There's actually quite a few cars involved in that 6-car fight for the race lead. Not complaining whatsoever. Jonas Dreyer leads it, and Chris Chatterton, despite losing that race lead, and arguably maybe you would expect him to tumble down a little bit, he's not giving up the pressure whatsoever. Same too in the Pro-Am. Vlaming leads yet another lap ahead of Buchan, who's in 2nd place. Felix Pial rounds off the podium, but again, you just don't know what's going to happen. Every lap is an unknown in terms of who's going to go for a move, who's going to maybe make a bit of a mistake. Are they going to come together? It's all these things going through your head, and we're talking about it, we're watching it from an outside perspective. Just imagine having to deal with that firsthand at the wheel.
Yeah, very difficult indeed, although I do feel like there's a little bit more of an agreement here in Pro-Am to not quite fight as much so far in the opening moments of this race, although it's not really working. Vlaming is coming under quite a bit of pressure himself, and I don't think Lucas Romano wants to sit and wait here forever either. So there could be a bit of restlessness in this group really transpiring pretty soon. But let's find out over the next number of laps. It's certainly nothing like the pro leading battle that we've seen. Louis Gardner and Thomas Reiter have taken themselves out of the leading group by fighting so much, which is bizarre. Gardner once again on the defensive, Reiter once again to the outside into the bus drop, and once again it doesn't work. And so they just keep on losing time, and now they've lost the slipstream entirely, which seems like they've shot themselves in the foot there a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, and again, it's quite hard to regain that slipstream once you have lost it. Fortunately for them, it's a large pack of cars, and you would expect them to be able to close the gap because of the time lost from fighting. But if it was completely clean all the way to the end, then it would be very difficult to reclose that gap. Vlaming under a bit of pressure from Buchan, who had a bit of a look down and towards the bus stop chicane. Nothing materialising this time around, but Vlaming getting a much better run, getting the measure over the Audi as they exit a couple of car lengths at least. And you might expect Felix Pial to maybe get into the mix. We'll have to see. This is Ben Humberstone having a bit of an off. We're going to take a look as to what happened to him. I think, yeah, completely by himself. Literally pretty much, oh, actually, I say it's a carbon copy. It's not really. He managed to hold it for at least a little bit before the car finally looped round on him, backwards into the barrier. Yeah, not ideal. But again, that same bit of poo on where the car seems to just snap on almost everyone at the same part. And even if you can try and save it once or twice, it seems inevitable that it's going to go around on.
Well, the Porsche certainly seems to snap. By the looks of things, it's becoming a bit of a temperamental car, especially at the rear end, since that's where the engine and all the weight's placed, I suppose. But either way, Felix Pial not doing bad with it right now. Even had a look up to 2nd place there in Pro-Am into their com, but not quite able to do it. Lucas Romano came under pressure from Patterman himself, I think, there just a little bit as well, but it wasn't too much. So they're able to stay in the positions they were. Still 5 cars leading in Pro-Am, and a bit of a fight a bit further down, being headed by Jeremy de Boive in that 10th place. Antoine Pedro has not really made much progress in this race so far. He's 11th, ahead of Juha Huttinen and Stefan Schuster in 13th place. Shows that the battles are not just contained within the first 5 or so. They go down a lot further than that, and even outside the top 10.
Yeah, fights everywhere, it must be said, and people still squabbling for positions no matter where they are, and it is awesome to see. And again, really looking forward to this season side by side for a couple of drivers in the pros. I think that's Reynolds trying to get himself up into what is going to be 3rd place. I think he's been able to get that one done up into P3 ahead of Chris Chatterton, who's unfortunately fallen from 2nd, well, tumbled all the way from the top in P1 at the start of this race, now down to P4, still in the mix, but again, it doesn't seem like he's making much progress forward, more so back. I think we're going to take another look as to how it happened. Stuart Reynolds there, keeping confident, waiting for the gap to open up on the right-hand side. Brave on the brakes, goes the 96 Mercedes, and that's him up onto the podium and up 3 places now, alongside Jonas Dreyer, biggest gainer inside the top 5. But yeah, Stuart Reynolds, he's very, very quick. We saw that a lot last season, and you can definitely tell that he's going to be gunning it for at least one of the top playing positions of P1, P2, P3 all the way to the end of this race. This is Lucas Romano. This seems quite early for a scheduled pit stop.
It's very early, but it could also be part of the plan to get out of traffic and maybe spring a surprise. Well, it won't be a surprise if he wins, obviously. He won race 1, but it would be a bit of a different strategy paying off immediately, and that's not something we saw a lot of last season. But with some new faces, some fresh ideas, maybe there'll be a different path to victory for Romano in race 2 as we go back to the leaders in Pro-Am. Flaming leading well ahead of Buchan, and also Felix Pearl just in behind there as well. Michael Patterman seen the driver in front just come into the pit lane there, so that's not great, because that gap has just opened up and he's lost a bit of slipstream there. It's allowed Liam Ahern to maybe start applying some pressure to him, which he won't be enjoying particularly much, but it's good to see a different strategy finally on the table. We saw almost none of that last season, but maybe with some new drivers, there's some new ideas about going about race 2.
The only noticeable... Oh, who's that going around? Was that Buchan going around? Yeah, it was. He had a big moment there. Martin Buchan, the Scotsman, sideways through ball and just caught it like towards the back end of the frame there. That's invited Felix Peal into second. Michael Patterman up into third. Buchan under a lot of pressure. He's done really well to still, you know, even be in contention for this train, but that's released Vlaming all the way, you know, 2.5 seconds clear. You can just see turning in. The car had none of it. Fair play to hold that. Big respect. I mean, I'm sure David Christie's going to find some way to slate the poor fella for that one, but all I've got is respect for having the quick hands, the quick reactions to be able to save that one. Unfortunately for him, he's got to recompose himself very quickly, get back in the swing of things, and try and fight forward. This is Jonas Dreyer under a lot of pressure from Kieran Smart up in front, but there's just so much going on, and there's, you know, not enough time really to digest it properly.
Not really. And so it's very exciting. Up the front of the field, especially Jonas Dreyer coming under more and more pressure seemingly as the laps go on. Kieran Smart looking to maybe get through with the help of Stuart Reynolds maybe. Let's see as he pulls to the outside, looks to the inside, does Reynolds. He knows that Smart's not going to go for it, so he's going to do it himself by the looks of things. Dreyer on the outside line may well give his teammate the position here as well. He's going to hold on to the lead, but it's going to be a 1-2 for the Mercedes. So they may try and run away now, but it will be difficult as the fight for 4th place just picks up in Pro-Am a little bit. Not quite able to get down the inside into a rooms there for Liam Ahern, who will have to wait for Lecom.
Yeah, but again, it's a prime overtaking opportunity. This is Juho Huhtinen, the Finn, down in P13. He's got... wow, that was a great move from Porsche, from Fernando Torres there to just send one. I don't think Huhtinen was going to fight that one too hard, to say the least. We saw, of course, with Ashraf El Haddad on lap 1 how dangerous it can be. This is all kicking off, though, for the fight for 4th. Liam Ahern has been able to get past Buchan, and Packer also up in a 5th place with him. And that was a pretty sensational move. This is, again, with Ren. We're cutting from live action to replay almost, you know, back to back. And yeah, this is what happened to Jan Rens. And that is the... I feel bad for him. That was a silly mistake, but you have to empathise with him because he probably didn't even see that he went onto the grass there, just tapped it, and bam, car just went round.
I think Craig Shield got involved with this as well. That replay cut moments before disaster, I think. Yeah, it was a disaster, I'm afraid. Craig Shield gets spun around, and he had problems in the first race as well that I don't think were his fault, actually, so Shield's not going to be pleased with how today's gone, particularly, which is a real shame for him, but I think he's still going as we just tick under half an hour remaining in this 2nd race of the night. Battle for the lead overall is getting more intense with more drivers catching on. Well, Busby is the latest to add to the list, although we still don't have the likes of Harry Rules, Thomas Cope involved at the moment. Neither do we have Neil Butler. We're not going to have Kjellberg involved because he's not actually out the race officially yet, but he's looking pretty good to be out the race, unfortunately. Hopefully he does return for next week's round coming up at Hockenheim. So we look forward to seeing him there. But for today, all hopes of a real good finish are over. Kieran Smart lost 2nd place on the last lap, but will he lose 3rd? It's Chris Chanton. He's shown that he's not going to be too bothered by one driver going through, and so Chanton might test his luck as well, although he doesn't quite have the speed to go through. Excuse me, that was Reiter trying to go from Chanton, wasn't it? Sorry, Reiter trying to make the moves. Oh, and he has done there. He's certainly made one kind of move, and he's straight off the road. It's Chanton. Through goes Gardner and Busby. Beeman will also go through with Harry Wills. as there's contact down towards Bruxelles. Controversial incident once again. Was Reiter far enough alongside? Difficult one to call.
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I don't think it's really a corner that you can just stick your nose in and expect space. I think that Chatterton was almost always going to turn there. He was already turning, I think, and again, it's not my job to call, so I'm not going to do it. I think it's just one of those things, unfortunately. But yeah, Chatterton really, really worse off because of it. Down now to P9 from when he started in P1 and was with that front train for a good portion. Of course, not even halfway through this race yet, so not really telling what should have been, but definitely what potentially could have been, maybe for Chatterton. Race isn't over yet though. He's still got time to press forward. This is Timo McEwen in the AMS. Is that a move there from Bingham? Oh my word! The bravery and the confidence on the brakes to sail around the outside and at least try and put some pressure on there in towards Lake Com. Timo McEwen caught by surprise, I think, but able to stay in front. That was, wow, that is reminiscent of Let's in race 1. You can see there McEwen almost defending thin air, and then the Porsche just says, all right, thanks. Brave on the brakes on the race line. Of course, the cleaner part of the circuit, you can have that confidence, but to try and at least keep it on the outside, that takes some courage.
It does. That's Reiter involved in the battles once again here. This time with Busby, who needs to be careful of running into the side of him. Callum Beeman. Paul Busby's already been able to get through and get away. Reiter down the inside for 6th place. He's got that done. Harry was making comparatively slow progress to some of his main rivals in this race, but he is at least moving forwards in this race as Louis Gardner makes his way up the hill, and Paul Busby is on the attack here. He goes to the outside line over the top at Radion, but hits a brick wall of air really, and he won't be able to go anywhere. Oh my word! Incident in the background with Harry Wills and also Busby. No, that's not Busby, is it? It's going to be Reiter. Wills spirals and spins across the road again and eventually comes to a stop. He can barely get out the wall. The suspension now is there. It must be pretty horrific. And it looks terrible. It looks absolutely terrible for Harry Wills.
Wow. This is such a shame. You can see the two Porsches in front of him going side by side. I think for Harry Wills might have just been wrong place, wrong time. And again, that is the danger of Rouge and Rally on the exit there through the Camel Kink as well. You can see there the 22 going to try and sail his way around the outside. Didn't quite work for him, so Harry Wills is going to obviously naturally try and get involved and trying to put a bit of pressure on and at least try and get up the inside. That didn't quite work for him, but using that momentum to try and catapult himself to be in the mix as they run through. You can see that Porsche closing very, very quickly. Harry Wills doesn't really know where to go. He tries to fill some space, and the two in front of him collide, gets squeezed, does the inside Porsche, and Harry Wills had no time to react to that. Unfortunately, no one else was involved with that one because, again, that very, very easily could have gone very, very wrong.
It already went quite wrong. But yeah, hard to tell from that angle whether there was room there that was closed by Thomas Reiter or whether it was a gap that he wasn't there that Callum Beeman was trying to put his Porsche into. Not entirely sure from that angle which way around it is, and I'm sure it'll be argued about by both parties as well, as the race lead is being argued about right now between teammates. Stuart Reynolds goes through, Jonas Dreyer tucks in, and I think they've realised that maybe Reynolds has got a chance to not only get the lead but also run away with the lead and maybe the win in this race. It was an exchange of positions, really.
It was. Stuart Reynolds definitely has got the commanding pace over his teammate Jonas Dreyer, who now has to settle into second. Maybe the plan is to get away together, is to use Reynolds as a sort of a tow track in a sense to try and get away from Kieran Smart in P3, but the pressure is still there. Jonas Dreyer is closing the gap. We'll have to see if he's going to go for the move. Seems to be mutual understanding they are going to stay together. It seems that Dreyer is just happy to sit behind, but as a 3, I think Kieran Smart is also in on the deal to say, yeah, no, let's leave is probably the best option of progress, because Paul Busby there in 4th place can very quickly close the gap back up as well. This is the fight still for Pro-Am though, hasn't diluted much. Didier Vlaming is still under pressure from Felix Payal, and already they could run too wide as they head now down towards Lake Com.
Sideline for Bill, but he's stuck on his own, out in the air, on his own. Vlaming has got the inside line, but it does turn to the inside in a few moments for Peel. Although Vlaming won't let it, he dives deep under brakes and holds on to that place with 2 hands. So it's a nice race developing in Pro-Am, and little bit cleaner as well. I've got to say, there's been quite a lot of crashing going on in the Pro category, but it's been much better behaved, really, from the Pro-Ams.
Yeah, they've been on their... Yeah, they're certainly not going to be in the naughty step, that's for sure. They've really kept it nice and tidy. So, well done to them, you know, showing the pros how it's done, I suppose. But, yeah, really doing a good job. And for the pros, sometimes it is that desperation. A couple of drivers, you know, trying to make amends for race one and things like that, and mistakes happen. But, yeah, for Pro-Am, they are really doing a good job. And yeah, Vlaming especially is really excelling. He's under a lot of pressure, has been pretty much from the start of this race, but hasn't really looked back, hasn't really felt under much pressure. You haven't looked at him and said that he's, you know, making mistakes here and there. And again, touch wood, hopefully it's not going to happen. But yeah, for the Pro-Ams, they are so close. There's not much separating them at all. And I, fingers crossed, just hope that the pit window doesn't separate them either, because yeah, I'd love to see this to the end, especially towards, you know, the sort of the final 5 minutes sort of area of this race, where things really do start to ramp up, because that's when the moves start to count more.
Absolutely, but I do think that the pit stop window, we may well see things just get spread apart a little bit more as Felix Pearl looks down the inside. Oh, that was close. Vlaming very committed to the inside line once again. He's in the pit lane now, so barely half an hour gone. It's quite early from Vlaming, but clearly he didn't want to be defending any longer. I don't think he'll be out of fuel at this stage. It would be quite a fuel burn if he was, but I don't think he is. I think this is purely tactical, and we've got to remember, where's Lucas Romano in this race? Where is he? How much traffic has he been in? Not really checked in with him. Trying to find out. He's in a bit of clear air right now, and thankfully for him, the AMs are quite spread far apart. So while he is within them right now, within the pack of the AMs, he's not having to overtake cars every single lap. He's not stuck in trains of cars. So see where Romano gets here, and if this is a big lead, then we could well be seeing the race go up the road immediately here.
Yeah, Lucas Romano again did something very unorthodox very early on. He come in, I think, about 16 minutes in, so he's already 12 minutes into his stint. But again, it's going to be a race against time. You can see Vlaming, I think he's now stationary, or yeah, he's now stationary. This is also Mike Bailey coming in the AMs, but yeah, again, we'll have to see what Lucas Romano can do. As again, with Payal and Patterman and Liam Ahern, they're going to have to work together to limit the time loss over the course of the next couple of minutes, crucial couple of minutes, probably, you have to say, the most important so far, and probably the most important there will be in this race. Vlaming now leaving the pit lane. Where's Romano is the question. I think Vlaming's going to get away with it, but again, he's going to be a lot slower. There's Romano. It's going to be very, very close. He's already up to speed, and Vlaming's just still going to have to be accelerating. They're going to exit the pit lane side by side, but Romano is ahead of what was the overall race leader in the Pro-Ams.
And he looks like he's gotten away with slipstream as well. Is that Dean? No, it's not Dean Timms, because he's in the Mercedes recovering. It's Tony Norgran who's just in behind, and this is what I mean about them being stuck in the AMs, but it's not too much of a problem because they're quite spread apart. So now these guys have got real concerns, because the previous leader has been overtaken by Romano by quite some way, and basically what that tells us, Zach, is that they could be fighting for second or worse here.
Yeah, it does. It is an unknown really as to where they're fighting for, but yeah, it's interesting, and the more they fight now, the worse off they're going to be. It might not even be second or anything like that. When it comes to the end of it, they might not even have a chance for second or first. So yeah, they've really got to settle down and you know, have a clean couple of in-laps to the end of this race. Also, same with the pros, really. No outsiders, no anomalies for the pros in terms of strategy. Everyone's just on it, but yeah, you have to say that it is going to come down to that pit stop time and making sure your in-laps and out-laps are nailed to perfection. And for the two out in front of Stuart Reynolds and Jonas Dreyer, the two teammates in the Mercedes, they seem to be perfectly poised for this. They're getting away just a little bit, extending the margin about as much as they can, working well together. And the good thing is that they've got each other out in front. They're not isolated by themselves.
Absolutely, that is a bit of a help. So just who is going to win this race, especially in Pro. It's very much an unknown prospect. Nobody has made their actual stop yet. Thomas Coke did start from the pit lane, so it says it's been in the pit lane in this race, which is technically true, I suppose, but he hasn't made his stop yet. As we look at Estrevelle Haddad, who unfortunately has had a bit of a terrible day. Looks like this is just going to be a trip onto the tarmac, and just getting out the way of a few laps ahead of him. So that's good to see from him. But when are we going to see these pro leaders into the pit lane. Stuart Reynolds is currently leading and taking Jonas Dreyer with him away from the rest of the field, it looks like right now. Let's see where they get to in the final chicane, whether we are going to finally see some pit stops on the other side of the half-hour mark. We're not just yet, at least not in the top 2, not in the top 5. The pro guys choosing to stay out for a very long time.
Yeah, of course, this does mean that their pit stop is going to be shorter. They've got less fuel to take on, but yeah, it's very opposing strategies. We've got on one hand, we've got Romano going very, very short. We've got other people going very long. This is El Haddad pulling over to the right-hand side down the Camel Straight. He was, of course, involved with a bit of a crash on lap number 1. And unfortunately, he's once again had a bit more of misfortune. This is the fight now in towards the bus-stop chicane. There's Liam Mahan, I think, trying to sail the long way round of Michael Patterman. Indeed, does so up in a second place. Payels still leads, and well, what a move that was from Liam Mahan to get that one done. But again, it's not helping their case at all. Patterman dummies back to the inside. We're going to have a look at what happened to Liam Mahan. He was again just confident, brave on the outside, and yeah, well, there's not really much Patterman could do to that one. But again, we're talking about these guys, how important the strategical run is now. Are they, sort of anchoring in and settling for the best they've got, or because at the moment it doesn't seem like they're too interested in trying to maximize, minimize the time loss?
Well, they might be realising that ship may have sailed already in this race. Hard to know. I mean, Romano's pit stop was only 0.2 of a second quicker than Vlaming's, and I'm not entirely sure how much quicker the guys in Pro-Am can go in terms of their pit stop really this race, because everybody's fueling to the same lap count. Really, it's not too difficult to work out how many laps this race is going to be at Spa, because it is such a long race. You can fuel your car pretty exactly in this one. So and obviously all the drivers will have known that. So Romano and Vlaming have really had no difference in pit stop time. It's all been in the pace that Romano has just got over the others right now. Speaking of having pace over the others, Stuart Reynolds has got a bit of a gap here. 0.6 of a second and more. You can just see that he is starting to really stretch out some of these gaps in this race right now, because this field's getting a lot more spread out, as we've got an engine blown for one of the BMWs that has been into the wall very hard at Blanchimont by the looks of it.
Oh, that is a shame for Navarro de Boiva. His season 4 not getting off to the best of starts. His season 3 got off to a pretty good start. I think he was 1 and 2 with his dad Jeremy de Boiva back at Le Mans for season 3, but yeah, not the greatest start for the AM driver. Getting a spin through Blanchimont. Oh, that is an awkward one. A big shunt into the barrier as well, and rolling himself back across the circuit, and that is a fairly convincing end to this race. Here comes Thomas Cope into the pit lane, same too with Andy Miller and Neil Butler as well, I think, also in the mix. This is Felix Payel under a bit of pressure from Liam Mahone, who certainly doesn't wait around in terms of moves. He's going to try and send one. Have a look to the inside of the bus stop chicane. Payel sees him coming, goes the long way round, but Ahern, if he sees a gap, he knows he's quick. If he sees a gap, he's certainly going to at least have a look.
And maybe they have settled or kind of settled for second or worse here, as Kieran Smart's getting overtaken left, right and centre here. Might have had a problem. He was third. Busby, Gardner, Elliot have all got through now. Sure entirely why, because he's a good few seconds off where he was. But meanwhile, these guys, maybe they're just fighting between themselves now, as they know that Romano is going to take this one. But let's see. Up towards Lecombe this time. Can't be too far away from pit stops. We've said this for the last half an hour, really. Oh, not half an hour, sorry. Last 5-10 minutes. And they're just not coming at the moment in the front of any of these three categories. So through the Lecombe section, they're going to go again. Pearl is going to continue in the lead, but it really is a waiting game for the pit stops that can't be far away.
You have to imagine they are running almost on fumes, really. There can't be much left in that tank whatsoever, but yeah, they're still pushing on. This is Liam Ahern trying to go the long way around a no-name. What a move that was. And also Michael Patterman trying to now get the run on Felix Payel down towards Pouon. He's going to have a bit of a look, not quite got the run that he would have wanted, but Liam Ahern off the exit of Rivage to then get the drive to the right-hand side and be brave enough to go that way around a no-name corner. It can very easily go wrong, but he certainly made that one work. This is Ren. The Audi again, that you can already see that Audi's been through the wars just a little bit, and again into the brakes of the bus stop chicane. He's just completely missed it, completely fluffed it up, and again, it's just you know, there's two extremes in this race. Either it's going really, really well, or it's going really, really badly. But one thing we do know is finally the front runners in Pro are all in, and well, it's pretty unanimous on this lap.
Everybody is in here. 16 laps is the limit for these fuel tanks by the looks of things, because everybody's in. Liam Ahern is the first of the Pro-Ams in the overall order not to have been in so far. Thomas Cope, Neil Butler and Andy Miller from the Pros all came in last time, but it's a very painful watch, them going down pit lane, to be honest, because it's so long. So let's go back to the Pro-Am drivers, who may well have the same limitations as well. The three of them are all in, but you'd expect them all to be behind Romano pretty soon. I want to see where Thomas Cope is going to end up, really, in regards to, or in relation, I should say, to the rest of the Pro field, because we've not seen much of him so far. Started from the pit lane, but he's made good progress, and you can be sure that by running on his own for these last couple of laps, he's been making some ground as well.
For sure, and again, he is a very, very quick driver, was on pole for race 1, so demonstrating that he has definitely got the pace, and he's trying to make amends for it. So even if he does scrape inside the top 10 or whatever it is for Thomas Cope, it would be a good result that he certainly would take. And we might expect that he could be a little bit further up, but we're going to have a look as to when people exit the pit lane. Here comes Stuart Reynolds, who was leading the way. He's now heading up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion. Where is Thomas Cope? And he's a little bit further back. So at the moment, it's only P9. But if he's got some momentum, of course, he's got the ball rolling versus everyone still exiting the pit lane. So Thomas Cope could at least capitalise. He's up in a 6th now. What's it going to be towards the end of the straight? I think that could be the ceiling for him.
Someone's going slow there out the pit lane. Don't know what that's all about, but we've seen a big loss there from Chris Chatterton, who had to slow behind a very slow car on the exit of pit lane. This is going to be Lucas Romano retaking the race lead in Pro-Am to possibly do the double here on opening day. Here he comes down towards Eau Rouge for this next time to crown himself race leader. There he goes over the top at Radion. He's going to break the slipstream as well. It's going to be an almighty fight for second place. Vlaming might well even get away from that. It could be the fight for third that everybody's going to be going over for this one, but Lucas Romano looks like he's gone.
What a strategical mastermind here from the Belgian for his home race. Of course, he did really well in race 1. He's come into race 2 with, just everything, with sheer determination to come in and win. He did something a bit different with the strategy, was off course a little bit, but stuck with it, trusted his gut, and it's really now working out for him. He's now starting to reach the awards, 1.5 seconds clear of Didier Vlaming, who looked unbeatable really in terms of people putting pressure on him. He's 1.5 seconds himself clear of Felix Payal, but the fight for third definitely is well and truly on. But for Lucas Romano, you have to say his race has almost been so seamless and so perfect that with only 10 minutes left to go, he's probably the only person that can stop himself.
The other two leading battles, though, are very interesting indeed. Jonas Schreier trying to hold back Paul Busby right now. 4th second, outside line for Busby, who's not going to be able to get through into the bus stop chicane. He'll have to wait and go for it again into La Source, maybe. Going to have to look to the outside line if he's going to do it. Be a long way around there. I think he's just lifted off ever so slightly to let Dreyer in here. Or no, he's going to do the opposite. Right around the outside through La Source. Breaks late. Carries the speed well and gets a good exit as well. And so on the run down towards Eau Rouge and Radion, he might have this, but it's very close between the two. Dreyer going to give all the room that he can, the two of them. Nearly run. Oh, there's contact up the top of Eau Rouge. Busby's in the wall and he could get collected by someone. He very much could get collected. He's on the racing line, doesn't know whether to move or not. My goodness, it's a dangerous place to be. Everybody avoids, but unfortunately, Busby, who finished third in race 1, will not be repeating that podium. He's barely inside the top 10.
Oh my, yeah, you can see they certainly were elbows up. Paul Busby on the outside, and any move into this sequence of corners, Eau Rouge and Radion here at Spa, it's always going to carry some form of risk. Any move anywhere is going to carry some form of risk, but it's exaggerated so much through here. We're going to take another look at it in slow-mo. You can see Jonas Dreyer there on the inside. You know, there's not much more room that the Mercedes could give. Busby, naturally, of course, through Eau Rouge, it's going to be sketchy, but that wall comes at you very, very quickly. You're going so quick, and to be stuck right at the peak of the hill, that again is just not where you want to be at all. This is the fight for second, though, in the Pro-Ams. It's heating up just a little bit. Vlaming under pressure from Felix Payal, and now Liam Ahern is in the mix. He wants to fight for second place. He might go for the move for what is going to be third place, down towards Ravage. On the brakes goes the BMW. Has he been able to get it stopped? Yes, he is. And up into third place goes Liam Ahern. But now the fight is between himself and Vlaming in front.
Absolutely is. By the way, I don't want to blame Jonas Dreyer for that one at all, to be honest. On that run up Eau Rouge there, I don't think there's anything more that he could have done. But anyway, not that I'm blaming Paul Busby either. But there you are. Tom Bingham has jumped for the lead in the AM categories. His pit stop was 1.3 seconds shorter than Timo McKeown's, and just look at the gap right now. So do your own maths at home there. Timo McKeown's on a bit of a charge, though. He does want this lead back, of course. And this may well be where we see the most excitement in terms of a battle for the lead for the remainder of this race. This is by far the closest battle. Unless Stuart Reynolds has just fluffed his lines here and allowed Dreyer back in. Could just be the gaps fooling me for a second. But yeah, I mean, this gap very much could come down very soon, with McKeown only a second back and arguably the quicker of the two.
Yeah, but time is not on his side whatsoever. Not only does he have to catch Tom Bingham for first place, he also has to get the move done and keep it. We've seen time and time again how people can stay so close together at Spa, especially with these guys. They are so close on pace, so going to be tricky for McEwen to seal the deal, but hey, we'll have to wait and see. Around about 7.5 minutes, left of this race. Not long left in terms of laps either, so yeah, a lot of questions still to be unanswered. This is the one we're focusing on right now, the fight for second. Lucas Romano has taken off up 17 places in this race, is now leading the way in the Pro-Ams, doing a brilliant job in that BMW, and have to say that certainly is now a race for second. Liam Ahern, though, very close on the back of the Belgian of Didier Vlaming, and you have to say that you would expect Liam Ahern to at least try on this run towards Les Combes.
He certainly is. We're down into those final 4 laps now, with Vlaming once again defending for his life. He's been defending from the front from the very start. Slight contact. Oh, and he goes around. Ahern turns Vlaming around to puts up a smokescreen for everyone, and then gets back going again. He will drop down. Oh, that's so disappointing for Vlaming, who started on the first position in this race. He's now dropped to 9th after a valiant effort at defending all of these positions, but unfortunately it's going to come to almost nothing in this one. Hard to tell who was really at fault for that one, but there certainly was contact, and the result's obvious.
Yeah, again, a big shame for it to end that way, and it's just anticlimactic really for things to end in contact. It is getting very spicy for the pros, though. Stuart Reynolds leads from Jonas Dreyer and Elliot Hellier, who's doing a phenomenal job there up in P3, and trying to hang on to it. There's Louis Gardner into the pit lane. That allows Thomas Cope up to P4 in this race. So yeah, he's again on a mission towards the front of the field. You can see the podium, you can see the leaders in front of him, but again, it's time. It's that looming thing over you that, yeah, doesn't matter how quick you are, if the race runs out, you're not going to be able to make any further advances. But still, for a lot of these cars, a lot of these drivers, through what they've been put through throughout these last couple of races, I'm sure they're certainly not going to be complaining with where they finish.
3 laps to go, including this one now, as Elliot Hellier is going to be right in the slipstream of Jonas Dreyer, who is not far away from Stuart Reynolds himself here. They all gain on the race leader. Dreyer pulls to the inside line. Is he making a move or not here towards the inside, or is he defending his place? It's more of a defence from Elliot Hellier, who has to stay behind through Les Combes, and will continue behind for the next few moments, but he's going to be trying to get a move on Dreyer here, but it's going to be very difficult for him, because you get the feeling that wherever Dreyer goes on the Kemmel Straight, Reynolds is going to give him the slipstream, and that makes Hellier's life very difficult.
It does. It just negates the whole advantage of it, but you can see Hellier is practically pushing him through No Name, actually looking to the left-hand side of the run towards P1. He's very sensibly tucking back in, more so just to see where he's going than anything. It's very difficult to see if you are tucked up behind another car, but Hellier on the back of Jonas Dreyer, who I think going to try and do his teammate a world of favours and put up a mighty defence to allow Stuart Reynolds the breathing space that he needs to try and consolidate this race victory. But Hellier's not going to want to rate around at all. He's hungry for these wins, and well, he certainly's got the pace to do it. And throughout this race, he's proven how quick he is, how ruthless he is, and he's certainly willing to go for the moves if it is the only way to get it done. But on the exit of Curve Paul Frere, he's got a long run towards the bus stop chicane with the slipstream as well. He could actually eye up if he's brave on the brakes and already look into the inside for Blanchimont.
He's got the run here, and so he's going to use it inside at the fastest corner on the circuit. Oh no, there's contact between them. Elliott goes around. Dreyer makes save of the century. Cope. Oh, Thomas Cope has to avoid it. He's gone into the grass. He might be in the wall. Thomas Cope, not sure if he managed to stay out of it, as everybody scrambles to avoid. Neil Butler's going to be in the top three. Thomas Cope is somehow still pointing the same way, and he's somehow still in fourth place. I don't know how he avoided that one. Hellier going around in the end. It was a move at Blanchimont, which is so dangerous to do. The two of them met in the middle. They made contact. Hellier went all the way around. I don't know how Dreyer didn't. And I don't know how Thomas Cope didn't end up damaging his Porsche. He can't see where he's going. He can only just get out the way. He went around spinning in avoidance by the looks of it.
Call me sadistic all you like, but that's pretty beautiful in a weird twisted sense. I don't know, it just, the way everyone just somehow managed to end up all right is baffling in some sort of sense. Of course, not ideal in how it ended up, and again, yet another bit of contact that brought an unfortunate premature end to a crucial fight. But the way Dreyer held that, the way Hellier was able to bring it back around, completely pirouette and point the right way, still being P5, and Thomas Cope as well, with the reactions that he had to quickly flick out of the way, keep it out of the barrier and still remain in fourth place, again, is just a remarkable job, and you have to tip your hat to him and say well done to all of those involved. Yes, the incident itself is going to be left up for discussion and all that, but the aftermath, again, is one of those things where a lot of people are actually, you know, they're unlucky, but in that unlucky situation that they have actually gotten off quite lucky. Again, it's a complete contradiction, but definitely could have ended a lot worse for a lot of people.
He could, but thankfully, pretty much able to continue on as they were. Dreyer still in second, Cope still in fourth, Hellier the only one to have changed positions, and now Neil Butler's on the podium somehow from 11th place in this race. Very impressive opening weekend, my goodness, Wednesday, opening couple of races for him. Only 2 minutes to go and only one lap to go when we get to the line of what's been a crazy opening couple of rounds to the IMB World Series GT3 Championship for Season 4. It's been very enjoyable and very much a look into what we can expect from this great season, but it's not over yet, especially in this fight for fourth. Thomas Cope going to have a lot of defending to do from Elliott Hellier, the race winner in race 1. Wasn't quite able to repeat that with a race victory in race 2 either, after 1 or 2 problems, did get caught up and involved in a spin, but it's not a bad opening at night for him.
Not at all, no, and it's certainly been a very interesting evening of racing indeed. We come on to the final portion of it now, when Thomas Cope versus Elliott Hellier, the fight for fourth. That is again going to be that unfortunate ceiling for them, as Kieran Smart as well is in the mix if he can maybe try and get himself involved. But you can see that Hellier with a much better run off the exit of Eau Rouge and Radion now through the Camel Kink. He's committing to the outside early because Thomas Cope is on the defensive. To the left hand side goes the number 19 Porsche. Is Thomas Cope brave on the brakes? Is he brave enough to send one back down the inside to hang on to fourth? He's going to try it, but Hellier swoops around the outside up in a fourth place to try and recover from a spin just a lap ago. Both of these guys have really switched it back on, despite, you know, knocking their composure, have really got back onto the game very, very quickly. And well, that's Elliott Hellier trying his best to limit the damage.
He is, and could well be the points leader by the end of today. Not that it really matters, as Andy Miller, a driver we've not seen very much of today, tries to make a move on Chris Chatterton. Probably a good thing that we've not seen too much of him today, to be honest, because that means he's not been involved in all of the chaos that we have seen. It's going to be a respectable 8th place finish for him by the looks of it, as Vlamink is trying to recover some of the lost ground late on here with Edward Packer. Sorry, this is Packer trying to make his way through on De Boyver on the outside line. Oh dear, Jeremy De Boyver not on the apex there at all, and so Edward Packer goes right around into the path of everyone else. Juho Huutonen will get the top 10 position for now as a result, but will he be able to hold on the last lap from Dean Timms? We'll wait and find out a bit later, because the overall race leader and race winner, surely it's Stuart Reynolds, is coming through the final couple of corners. It's been a crazy and manic opening 50 minutes in the opening race 2 of the IMB World Series GT3 Championship for Season 4, but it's been a very, very enjoyable one as well, and very enjoyable for Stuart Reynolds, who will who will like the sound of this. Here's race winner for race 2 here at Spa, ahead of Jonas Dreher and Neil Butler, who will round out the top 3. Elliot Hillier will just about beat Thomas Cope to the line for 4th. And it was a masterclass further behind. Chris Romano is going to take a victory to be remembered in Pro-Am, a strategical masterclass to give him the win by 6 seconds.
Yeah, he again. It's been perfect from start to finish, really, for the Belgian, and really pulled one out of the bag. Used the pace. He trusted his gut, trusted his instinct, and stuck with it all the way to the end. And he definitely deserves this win.
Does over the line he comes. Liam Ahern will be second, and Felix Pearl will be third. Tom Bingham with that great strategy as well, just a little bit shorter in the pit lane than Timo McKeown was, and this looks like it's gotten him a race win. He's just got a few more corners to go to try and hold on. Just shows the importance of pit strategy both in Pro-Am and Am. Race won a little bit more on the road in Pro, really, all of the battles and incidents that we saw, but in Pro-Am and Am, seen strategies come to the fore a little bit more. Into the bus stop for the final time for Tom Bingham. Got just 1.7 seconds to conserve, and he will indeed do that. Out the final corner, he will be race 2 winner at Spa, ahead of Timo McKeown, and a big gap back to Jarmo Sastamainen. It's a good round for those teammates, second and third in race 2, but a good race overall, and a look into what we can expect for the rest of the season.
I must say, I for one am very much looking forward to it. If we get more Le Mans and more Spa for the final 9 rounds, and we go to Hockenheim, of course, in a week's time, really looking forward to that. We just have a good calendar, like a really nice calendar, and I really can't wait to watch it all unfold with how close people are, how high the tensions are, how ridiculously high the stakes are. They really all want to win, and you can see that with how hard they're driving and pushing maybe to the limit, sometimes a little bit over it, but yeah, with both of the races that we had tonight, it is honestly going to, fingers crossed, hopefully be a really, really exciting season.
Certainly will be. And race winner here for race 2 in the Pro category was Stuart Reynolds, 3 seconds ahead of Jonas Dreher and Neil Butler on the podium. Elliot Hillier held off Thomas Cope for 4th. Kieran Smart just missed out on the top 5 there in 6th, ahead of Chris Charlton, who was battling with Andy Miller to the line. Paul Busby and Arius Yomantus round out the top 10, with Kenny Hermans finishing 1 lap down. Louis Gardner didn't finish on the lead lap either, neither did Thomas Chandridge, Matthew McBride, Harry Wills, Callum Beeman, Thomas Reiter, Lee Holmes or Albin Kjellberg in that race there. Fairly attritional one in the Pro category. As far as the Pro-Ams are concerned, it was the story of Lucas Romano going 2 for 2 at Spa. Liam Ahern was 6 seconds behind, ahead of Felix Pearl. Michael Patterman and John Williams round out the top 5, with Martin Buchan and also Jeremy de Boyver rounding out the 7th position, just ahead of Dido Vlamink. Alex Bomberg and Juho Huhtinen round out the top 10. Dean Timms was 11th, ahead of Edward Packer, who spun around on the last lap. Fernando Torres, 13th position, ahead of Francois Pergereau. Then it was Sebastian Norgran, the final driver to finish on the lead lap, albeit only 55 seconds down. Stefan Schuster, Ashraf Haddad and Chris Thacker all failed to make it to the checkered flag. And finally in Am, it was only 2 seconds between Tom Bingham and Timo McKeown. Jarmo Sastamainen rounded off the podium ahead of Connor Botting and Dirk Bouts in the top 5. Carl Pearce was 6th ahead of Tony Norgran. James Slate's 8th ahead of Jürgen Knockhart. And Jerome Rains rounding out the top 10. Gus Franken failed to finish on the lead lap. Neither did Mark Bailey and Glenn Humberstone. Then we saw Alistair Hatcher and Greg Schill come over the line. Louis Boubier did eventually recover to 16th, but not what he expected after second in race 1. Jasper Starks only down in 17th in the end of that race. Let's get straight into some interviews, starting off with the overall race winner, Stuart Reynolds. Welcome to the booth, Stuart. It was a fairly nervy race for most of it. You were stuck in a bit of a train. You were leading the train for most of it. How was that race overall?
Quite nerve-wracking, like you say. It's been a long time coming to get a race win, that's for sure. But I didn't have any pace in that race at all. And I could see everybody catching me, especially like Thomas Cope and all that lot, and the nerves were getting even worse coming near the end.
You mentioned there that you were struggling for pace a little bit. I can't say it was very obvious, but I did slightly theorise that the Mercedes was not the strongest around Spa here particularly today. Would that be correct? Was it down to the Mercedes weaknesses really being on show around this circuit in particular, or was it just one of those things?
Yeah, the Porsche has definitely got the upper hand round Spa. Don't know why, because I've never driven the Porsche, so I don't know why it's so quick round here. But the Merc's definitely not the quickest, that's for sure.
Oh, you managed to make it work at least, and yeah, congratulations on the race victory. We look forward to seeing you in future weeks, of course, Stuart. But for now, congratulations and thanks very much.
Thank you very much, chaps.
Thanks very much. Stuart Reynolds victorious in the Pro category there in race 2 here at Spa. Also going to deal with race winners first, shall we? And bring in Tom Bingham from AM Victory here. I've just interrupted a conversation he was having. Sorry about that, Tom.
Sorry, guys.
Welcome to the booth. How was that race for you? I mean, it seemed to all happen in the pit stops from where I was sat, certainly in that one. You won by 2 seconds. What was that pit stop phase like, and how did you get to that victory?
Yeah, it was a bit of an accordion race, really. I'd reel Timo in, and then he'd pull on me a bit, and the car was a fairly loose setup for me, so I was just trying to take it easy in some sectors, but I felt like I definitely had slightly faster pace than him, and I think I just got lucky on the pit stop. Probably, to be honest, a bit of fuel saving, being behind him for 2/3 of the race, and that just gave me the edge in the pit, and yeah, once I got in front, I was able to just sort of stretch away, and yeah, and here we are.
It's probably unfair to ask you now, since we've had 2 out of the 20 races we're going to have so far this season, but what are your aspirations? What are you aiming to achieve after 10 rounds of this season, by Christmas when this season ends?
Yeah, I'll win it. I'd like to win it. Why not?
Nice.
Yeah.
Like the confidence. Like the confidence.
Gotta be ambitious, right?
Well, exactly. It started off very well from you indeed, Tom, so congratulations on that. Congratulations on race 2 victory, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
Very much. Tom Bingham, first position here in the category. Great confidence from him as well. Wants to win the championship, so we like a bit of that. But let's stay with the AM, shall we? And stay with the podium drivers as well by bringing in Timo McKeown, just finishing in second place, just behind Tom Bingham by the end of that race. Welcome to the booth, Timo. You couldn't quite pull off the victory there. Just how did you miss out by such a small margin? Just what was the key factor in missing out in this race?
I think the key factor was that Tom just passed me on the pits, and he got that 1 second on the pits, and then there was no chance. I was trying to catch him, but I never got in the position that I would get any tow. So when you don't get any tow on the Camel or you go any tow on the back straights, you can't really catch anybody. So we were standing like a second, 1.1, 1.2 second for most of the race, in the race after pit stopping. And then I was just like, fine, I'm not going to catch him. So sort of gave up, I think, a bit. But yeah, we had a great race with Tom. That was definitely fun.
Absolutely, and obviously you did benefit from the reverse grid, of course, but even so, you had the pace to stay up there in the end. I'll ask the same question to you that I asked to Tom as well. What are your aspirations throughout this season? Obviously, you're not a newcomer like Tom is, a newcomer to this season, but you've obviously got a bit of experience in this series. What are you expecting from this season?
Well, I'll try to finish in top 5. Let's put it that way. It's still a second season, and I only done iRacing, so like a year and a half so far. I do the real life racing, so in the winter time, I think this is a good hobby to do, and just getting more and more serious. Just like everything got out of hand. It's getting more and more expensive gear. So, but I would say somewhere fifth will be cool for me.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you again next week, Timo. But for now, congratulations on second place here in race 2 tonight. And thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, great to listen to you guys later.
Thanks very much. Timo McKeown, second place here in race 2. Let's jump back to the pros, shall we, in this order. And go to not a driver that finished on the podium, unfortunately, but just missed out. 4th place for Thomas Cope, another driver. I've interrupted the conversation, sorry about that. But Thomas, welcome to the booth. It's good to see you again. Starting from the pit lane here in race 2, and we'll get to race 1 in a moment, but we'll deal with the good stuff first. It was a good climb through the field from you in this second race, but why did you elect to start from the pit lane?
It was more of a mistake than an election. I'd actually chosen the wrong setup. when loading into the sim and getting on track. So I had to quickly dart out of the car during the gridding formation to change to the correct setup for the race, and I just missed out by a second on the loading back in, and unfortunately I had to miss start. I need to go and talk with Harry. I'm pretty sure I might end up getting a penalty for that. Leaving the pits. I probably should have waited till the AMs have all gone past before I left the pits with that sort of situation, but I let all the pros go, thinking I should be at least all right with that, but we'll see on the review and what gets said in the end.
You didn't do anything dangerous after all, so you might get away with it. You never know. Just circling back to race 1. Obviously, it was a lap 1 incident that in the end did for you with Albin Kjærberg. What was your take on that first lap incident we had in the first race?
I 100% hold my hands up and say sorry. I went and had a chat with Albin after race 1. It was completely my fault. Just too eager on the brakes, trying to push the car in too hard into the corner, and I had no respect for him being on the outside. I do hold my hands up and honestly say that was my fault. We've spoken about it, we're all good. If he protests and penalises me, it is what it is. I actually still thought that we had the full reverse grid for the full pro field, hence why I kept going on track. The points is a side effect. I wanted more the reverse grid, but I wasn't sure if I was going to get that after hearing you guys say about the top 10 for the reverse grid only.
A little bit of a change this season, but yeah, I suppose you did pick up points nevertheless, so it's not completely worthless for you. But either way, a decent round all in all. So congratulations on that, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thomas Coe, 4th place here in race 2 for that one, and we'll just have a quick chat with a few more as well. We've got Paul Busby waiting in the booth. Paul, welcome to the booth as well. 9th place for you at the end, but unfortunately a little bit of a late incident, bit of a scary incident as well, I've got to say. What was your perspective on that one?
Honestly, when it happened, I was absolutely fuming because obviously in the heat of the moment it kind of feels like I left enough room and stuff, but having looked at the replay afterwards, it's an absolutely shocking case of netcode. You could literally park a bus between the pair of us, and I feel absolutely robbed by iRacing, to be honest.
That was my immediate thought as well, if I'm honest. So yeah, fair play on that one. But we've spoken to you after both races now. But well, there is the incident indeed on the stream again. You can even see it from not so good angles. But there we are. What's your overall assessment of this opening round for you?
I thought it was fantastic, to be honest with you. Yeah, it was a great race. A lot of really good drivers in it, really clean and kind of really close battles. No one was giving each other an inch, but it was fair. It was really good. But yeah, just overwhelming feeling of guttedness, to be honest with you. I had a slowdown on the first lap, so I ended up going from P8 to P19, I think I was, and to battle all the way back up the field and have a chance of potentially winning it. To be robbed like that, I just feel, violated, to be honest.
Disappointing for sure, but there will be next week to come back from, of course. So either way, it's been good to see you out there for the first weekend here, sorry, I keep saying that, first evening here at Spa, but we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Thanks very much. Paul Busby, 9th place in race 2 here today. One final interview going to be with Martin Buchan here in the Pro-Am category here on this occasion, finishing in 6th place in that second race. Martin, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here. Good to have you in the series as well. I did speak to you after the first race, of course, so we'll get your overall assessment on the round as a whole. First of all, how have you found this first round of the season?
Tough, very tough. This Audi is... I hate it. It's Vorsprung total piece of rubbish.com. It's awful. I just can't get the straight line. Well, round Spa, it's got no straight line speed. I need the toe. So, first race, it was a bit like, hanging on to the back of the top 10. For a point, I was like, I'm in class pole here. And I was like, I don't want class pole because I don't know what to do because I didn't do press day. So got P2 for P3 for the reverse grid and was keeping up with the guy for ages. And then, yeah, I'll admit, I was thinking about something totally unrelated to racing and almost binned it to P1. And then I was like, oh, I'm done.
It happens. It happens to all of us. In terms of that Audi, though, that you mentioned there, is that something that you had to do with the Audi to make it competitive around Spa that made it so bad to drive, or do you fear for what's to come throughout the remainder of the season with this car now?
If I say it was what I did, does that make me sound like a setup expert? Because I just looked at an Apex racing setup and went, that'll do. I think it's going to be, if we need to trim the car right for top speeds, this is when the Audi goes. Doesn't want it, starts flying around corners like it's got no grip on the rear and stuff. But, I mean, if I get a twisty track like Not Kill, that'd be great. I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah, luckily for you, not kill. Luckily for you, we've got Monza, Daytona, and all of them straight line speed circuits, so you're in luck.
I'm humped. Can I just not do those races?
Well, yeah, that's always an option, I suppose. But yeah, either way, we look forward to seeing you there. Nevertheless, Martin, congratulations on a successful first round here in Prime, Martin. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Cheers, guys. Cheers for the broadcast, and can I just give a shout out to my Premier as well for the sponsorship? Cheers.
Of course. Congratulations on this round. Martin Buchan there at 6th place in race 2. Well, that will just about do it. We've just about gotten finished on time, which is always good. But Zach, it's been wonderful to be here for the first round. I get the feeling that it won't be at the last time we're going to see nearly 60 cars on the grid and all that kind of racing that we just saw. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic in this opening round.
Yeah, no, really enjoyed that. I hope everyone at home did as well. It was a roller coaster of a race, to say the least, a roller coaster of a circuit, and what a way to get the season, underway. Spa's a fan favorite. Some people say, oh, it's a bit overused, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's overused for a reason. That's because it's pretty good when it comes to racing action, especially when you've got 60 cars, 3 different classes on the circuit, all so close on pace, all hungry for victory, all hungry for just that extra place, that extra couple of points. And, well, we saw, again, people on the limit, people over the limit, and people just giving it their absolute all. And that is really what we love to see. So fingers crossed that they tone it down just a little bit, so much so that the moves get done, decided by, actual side-by-side moves as opposed to people coming together. But, I still really hope that they remain their aggressiveness, their aggressive nature, and just keep the excitement factor really high for the final 9 rounds on that run up to Christmas. Because Christmas is something to look forward to in of itself. But the final part of this season also.
Well, yeah, secondary to this, of course. But yeah, there we are. Thanks very much to everybody who has been tuned in throughout this evening. It's been wonderful having your company once again, and I hope you'll join us a little bit later, just 3 hours until we go live for the US version of this championship. We'll see a similar level, maybe even more excitement, although it'll be difficult to top these races. Tune in to find out at 1:30 in the UK. I know it's a bit late in Europe, but for those of you in a more preferable time zone, maybe, very much worth tuning in for a little bit later on, or indeed catching up on a little bit later on this very same YouTube channel. But for now, that's all from us. I've been Ewan O'Leary. Zach Sweeney has been alongside me. David Christie has been behind the cameras. And until we see you again next week at the Hockenheim Ring, it's goodbye for now.